All right, what's up, guys? How's it going? Hope you're having a good Thursday evening, or depends on the time zone, I suppose, but Thursday evening in European time. I'm here with the great tank debate with an awesome lineup once more. Half the reunion and one last minute awesome sub, Bogur, who's currently, I've caught him off guard there, but there he is, Bogur. Thank you for
What up?
joining us. And
No
I'm
problem.
also here with, as usual, Freedo in the bottom left for you guys. And
Hello, everyone.
this gray screen with a mute icon is currently flat. He will sort technical issues out and join us momentarily. But yeah, we're here to discuss the state of tanks, guys. I'm excited. I hope you're psyched and not in a pool of tears at the moment.
I'm crying. I can't take it. I
I've
honestly
switched to
can't
playing
take it.
support. I play support now.
Same,
so I'm having
actually.
a great time.
I
It's
play
amazing.
more off tank. Okay, listen, there was a streamer tournament a few days ago, and I played off tank. I played actually every single tank, and most of them were off tanks. I won the tournament by playing Sigma, and I don't play Sigma. It's wild. I don't have fun. It's not enjoyable. It isn't.
Well, so you guys have already gotten a good taste of what our opinions are going to be. We've got two tank supports, tank mains who've switched to support, one who's just been playing off tank, and one who's been molding quite publicly. So Flats, when he gets returned to us, who will, I'm sure, no doubt chiming. But rather than just mold indiscriminately, let's try and have some constructive what's the word? Direction.
I
to the
can't mold any
conversation.
harder. I'm at maximum mold over here.
Yeah, I've reached my limit.
At the start of
Okay.
last season, I had a full head of hair, and this is after playing main tank and losing all the SR. This is what you get.
I just ended my stream and just sent everybody to you, so I'll just stream
Yeah.
after. I don't care.
Welcome, Flats. Yeah, we'll send him back. We'll send him back Flats' way once we're done with this. But thank you very much for joining Flats' stream. We're here to discuss some tanks. So guys, let me start off the conversation then. And the first one I have for you is very simple. Just tell me what you think the tank meta is right now, because this is obviously going to vary a little bit. But for anyone who's watching who maybe isn't fully familiar, what is the tank meta right now? So you can just speak for your own experiences. Perhaps Freedo and I will try and talk for the metal ranks, the diamond and below. Bogur, Flats, one of you want to talk through what it's like at the highest end of the ladder?
Do we start? Who starts?
Go ahead, Bogur.
Okay, I start. I think it's double shield and also bow sometimes. Like bow, Sigma, double shield, stuff like that. Like the bunker combs. Okay, so bunker combs on 2CP for sure. And maybe on cuff maps you play bow. And that's about it. I've been scrimming contenders. I've been scrimming tier 2 teams. I've been scrimming like the better teams in EU. I can confirm you that 99% of the teams are running double shield. And in ranked, I don't know how different it is in ranked because I haven't played ranked in the last few days, but I'm pretty sure it's also the same. Except the main difference is that people run a little bit, they run bow a little bit more than people like in officials run. I think just double shield is way too strong. BAP like enables this bunkery comp, and Brigitte enables this brawl style where you can go in and just fight the tanks, and if you try to dive it, you can't kill anything because they just have a Brigitte to heal and bash and boop you away, and they have a lamp to secure that their team is gonna live long enough to kill you. And it just creates this absolutely boring meta because it's just it's really boring just to sit there on Orisa and shoot and do nothing. It's not fun. It wasn't. It's not. It was never fun. I know why they buffed Brick. I know why they did this to us. It was fun for a while where there was no double shield meta, and there was like a lot of different metas, and it was very varied, and it was very interesting, and people in ranked played a lot of stuff. But then they buff Brick, and then this happens, and it's just I don't get it. I don't.
Yeah, and I will definitely get to like how it got here. But I'm also curious, Flats, are you in concurrence with Bogur? Is this what you've experienced as well?
So the Brig, as of right now, of 3:35 p.m. EST, the Brig nerf actually has gone through. Brig is back to 200 HP. In the 3 games I played, or 4 games I played before getting on the podcast, I saw double shield. I saw Sigma Hog. I think Sigma Hog is a big one that you see actually in high level ranked play as opposed to like professional play, like contenders and scrimming, because people don't want to run Orisa, and Hog is a decent replacement. Like if you get the 4500 game, you know the game I'm talking about, like that really high level game where like everyone in the game, you know, knows what's going on, then you're running double shield. But if you get like a 42 average game, it's kind of like you can get away with shit. Like you'll see probably Sigma Hog, you'll see Ball Sigma, Ball Hog, double shield. Those are your possibilities. You don't really have anything else. There is no Rein, there is no Winston, there is no Diva, there is no Zarya, with an exception being that you probably will see some Diva on like Gibraltar or like second point Dorado, maybe, because that high ground is really important. And Diva Ball can do really well for taking it. But other than that, not really see much.
Yeah, so that's very interesting. Of course, we all know, Flats, those 4,500 games you're referring to. Like, which one of us hasn't?
We've all been there.
Which one of us hasn't been there in that 4,500 game where some guy's not locking double shield? No, but I think so. I have some interesting statistics that I'm going to pull up in a second, but I did want to just talk about fields first and how the perception is. So, Freedo, how are you finding it? Obviously, you are playing at a high level, but also have a good touch with what the majority of the community play. How are you feeling what the meta is, if there is such a thing in the metal ranks?
Well, the interesting thing to me is that with the power level of so many things going down in the past few patches, I think the Overwatch community forgot how to play Overwatch largely, other than the high level players that obviously like just grind the game to an outrageous degree and play it almost like in a beautiful way, in terms of their positioning is so good that they have to run, double shield. Whereas for most players, they can't run double shield, or even characters that are ridiculously strong like Batiste. I even watched this when I watched Samito play on Rank to GM today on support, because teammates just wander off and do random things. And there's like a benefit and a curse to that, where they end up, a lot of the average player doesn't really understand the meta at all, because either they or their team is playing so inefficiently that you have to overcompensate by popping off. So that's sort of where I feel all roles in Overwatch are right now. If you want to grind and get up, you have to find characters that you don't necessarily need your teammate to do the right thing, because you can almost guarantee that until you're at a high enough rank, they're not going to be doing the right thing. So you have to pop off in that spot. So to me, the biggest rank tanks that can do that are Sigma, Hog, and Ball, with a little bit of Zarya. But either way, on all of them, you have to have sick mechanics, because you're going to find yourself in these situations that like a teammate's out of position or someone doesn't come with you. The problem that I've had running tanks is that people will pick supports that should go with either Winston or Reinhardt, but they don't actually know how to play that comp, right? Like the enemy's not running. I think in just about 99% of games, nobody's running an effective double shield other than in your guys' games. So I think you can run it over, but like players don't have the commitment that I was trying to say earlier. Like I think like people forgot like what it means to Rein and Winston. They kind of just need to rush. Like they just need to pick a thing and go at it. But that takes a lot of effort and work. So because of that, you sort of just need to be able to play in a self-sufficient type way, because otherwise the enemy will do that to you, and you'll just have a Roadhog off on his own, get the odd pick here or there. Whole Hog has been buffed to like ridiculous levels. Like the solo Q-esque playstyle, this is kind of interesting as well. Especially for those of you who watched the first Great Tank debate, me and Flats kind of went head to head on this. And I haven't decided yet if I regret the positions I took, because some of them kind of came true, right? Where it's like, wouldn't it be great if Hog was this self-sufficient? Oh wait, he is now. And the weird thing with the Hog changes, because they overbuffed him, right? And then they reined him back in. I feel like the community learned how to play around that Hog that we already had, that they could have been using before. So this is my problem when we talk about the meta, right? It's like no one knows how to play right now. And it's like such a broad state. People hate it when I say that, but players play is so bad that it's hard for me to really get a grip on what people should do. So you just sort of do what works best with randoms, which is pop off the best you can. I think especially for lower tiers, you really can get Rein and Winston to work if you just know the logic of like, let's hold amp till I can swing, then go in, run them over. Like if you do that in plat, like you're gonna win. But so it's tricky. That's my position. I think I would like Blizzard to slow down with like Brig's great, Brig's bad, Brig up and down, up and down. The community needs to catch up. Like we're like 2 patches behind game sense wise and game knowledge in order to be able to play. Meanwhile, we're putting Bogur and friends through hell, like buffing these things that they know how to use, and then it just ruins their gameplay. But no one else wants to knows how to really maximize them. Yeah. That's my problem. We can't use ranked stats to buff characters into prevalence before we know how to play. And we don't know how to play yet. So just calm down using ranked stats. That's my position, my platform.
I want to say that I
Rein's-
said on the
Yeah.
first one that Hog was too strong, and I thought he was too strong before the super buff, and that the reason he wasn't being played was because double shield is a good Hog counter. And then they super buffed him. Everyone learned how to play him. They reverted him. Everyone said he's going to be garbage, and he still played a ton.
The reason you even play Hog right now, as we have mentioned before, is because you just can carry games. Like you can carry. The reason why,
Bingo.
especially tank players, main tank players, don't know what to pick and just go Hog, is because I can't. Realistically, you rarely carry with Orisa. You kind of depend on your team. Yeah, you can sometimes pop off. You can do the crazy Orisa flyings with Bongo, whatever. But most of the time, you want to pick a character that you can carry with. So the main tanks are gonna pick Bo or they're gonna pick Hog, because Hog gets a lot of pick potential for, like, as we mentioned again, you can pick off a lot of people that flank or split up because they're not playing together as they should. And when somebody flanks a lot and you pick Hog, you can punish him like very easily. And Bo also is very good because it creates a lot of chaos, and you can carry a lot because people aren't good enough to counter it. So it creates this a weird dynamic where in ranked and scrims is very different. Even not in ranked, not only in ranked and scrims, but also, for example, really high level ranked is double shield, and then lower is just a lot of different stuff because people just can't play double shield, as we said. And another very a little bit maybe risky thing to say, but I think Winston against double shield isn't that bad as people think. I think so. We scrimmed against double shield. We played Winston, and Winston Zarya, depending on the double shield comp, can actually work. But it really takes your team to know how to play it. It really takes you to know how to play Winston in the first place and know how to play against that comp. And people don't do it because they're just not good enough, or they don't want to invest to actually make it work. So they just kind of just default to double shield and just let it go, and whatever happens. Go. You're a tank player, go Lisa, deal with it.
Yep.
At this point, I want to really just bring in some really interesting statistics, because I was having a look over pick rates and win rates. I know, Freedo, you said let's not balance over them, but I had a look at over buff, and these are really fascinating, and I think they actually tell a very interesting story. So you guys might want to look at stream while I bring these up. So here I'm going to show you guys now the pick rates and win rates for all the tanks from bronze to GM. So if we start off in bronze, we see that Reinhardt and Zarya are the highest pick tanks. And we have our boy Roadhog lower down the bottom with a garbage 44.58 win percent rate, which is near lowest alongside Winston. You climb up to silver, okay, Rein Zarya is still the most popular, but Road Boy has kind of climbed up now, 11%. We go up to gold, still Rein Zarya, Gold Boy is now 13, or Hog Boy is now 13%. We go up to platinum, Zarya now overtakes us as the dominant tank pick, Reinhardt in second, Hoggy Boy up to 15% now. Then we head over to Diamond, still the same picture, Zarya a dominant pick, Hog Boy now up to 19% pick rate. Now here's where things get spicy. We hit Masters and suddenly Hog shoots up to 25% win pick rate, the dominant tank, obviously Zarya second behind him. And then Grandmaster, which you guys are talking about. Here comes the Wrecking Ball, here comes the Sigma, so the top three picks here. Hog, Ball, Sigma, the three carry tanks. And one other thing I really like to point out is really interesting. So we look at the win rate here of Hog. 53.6% win rate in Grandmaster. In Master, 49% win rate. In Diamond, 50%. So significantly lower. Basically, what we're looking at, to try and interpret these statistics the best we can, in basically increasingly from bronze all the way up to Diamond and Platinum, people are starting to pick more and more Hog. Rein Zarya, for the majority of the metal ranks, so Platinum and below, are still being played because presumably those are the staple tanks that Overwatch, those are the ones everyone has kind of come through this game playing. But as the higher you go, basically, the more people are realizing, hey, I can pick Hog and I can just flank and kill people. And you saw in Master, it's a garbage win rate because the people picking Hog haven't quite got it down yet. And the ones who pick Hog and do it well shoot up to Grandmaster and they get the 55% win rate or whatever ridiculousness it is. So kind of exactly what you guys were identifying informally, what you kind of knew by anecdotal evidence in your games, which is that tank players are kind of at this spot where they're like, I don't know, like, why am I playing Winston? And but bear in mind, Winston was like near bottom in all those ranks in terms of pick rate. Why am I playing like Winston? Why am I playing Reinhardt when I could just pick Hog? And eventually when I learn to land these hooks, I'll win. And of course, Zarya was the most picked tank in almost all these ranks. If I look at the overall statistics, you'll see Zarya is the highest picked tank in all of Overwatch right now, which is a state I didn't really think we'd get in at the moment, right? This feels odd to me that we're in a world where Zarya is the most picked tank. But having seen those statistics, what do you guys think? Do you have anything interesting comes to mind off the back of that?
Yeah, I have one thing. I also wonder, and this doesn't show up in the stats at all, but at least anecdotally, something that I notice is people try to pick something else, get clowned, then go to hog. So that like, there's no way to assess that like selection bias, but it also like it increases a pick rate, but increases the loss rate as well, because you're picking a character, you're trying to like, it's like a panic swap. You know what I mean? Like it's sort of the same way why Symmetra has a higher win rate, because it's situational. You try to pick her when she's good. If you're, you know what I mean? Like if hog's the panic button when you're losing already, then it's going to lower the win rate. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, we have to bear in mind, disclaimer, that the statistics aren't like, fully perfect. They don't actually give the full picture, but I just thought they were quite interesting.
I guess my point would be, like, if I'm playing with Flats and he's on Rein, I'm going to go Lucio to help his Rein. And then he's going to swap when it stops working, right? And whether we win or not, it goes onto the hog stat when, see what I'm saying? So it's a little tricky with that. Also, speaking of Lucio, I think there's just like a shortage of Lucio players outside of GM. I feel like
no. GM also, if you pick Lucio, you're marked. Yeah. Okay. So outside of GM, you said there's a shortage of Lucios. Yes.
Just in general, in any meta, I just mean like the population of players. See, that's sort of what I said about earlier. Like if you can't play double shield in plat, like could you just amp at the right time and run things over? Kind of like almost what you're saying, right? It's like if you feel even at as high as you are, you can play like a sort of rushy style to overwhelm it. I think you could do that at lower ranks, but Lucio is one of those picks that just doesn't get seen. So outside of the 10 streamers that are good at him in GM, that's what it feels like to me. I feel like it's a underrepresented role for how like core he is to say Reinhardt's success, for example.
Well, yeah, looking at the stats here again, he's 12% pick rate, fourth most pick, in all ranks. In GM, again, roughly the same, 12%, fourth most, behind Ana, Mercy, and Zenyatta. Brigitte surprisingly lower.
Can you click on like for the last 3 months and we can see if Lucy was
a little bit higher, So recently he's dropped basically.
But that's
and
GM.
Last 6 months.
Even when he's picked, though, I mean, like I don't think he's played well. Is kind of what I mean. Like the lower ranks do pick him, but they like AOE heal with him the whole time. So
you know what I mean? Much healing, not enough speed.
I think like the good Lucio players just skyrocket and go to GM, and then you're left out with these mediocre Lucio players. No offense to anyone. In these plat and like gold and stuff and lower ranks, and these players can no longer carry as much, so they kind of swap off more because they feel like the pick is ineffective, so it has a much lower play rate and win rate. But like all the really good Lucios that are really good at the character, they understand when to amp speed, when to amp heal, when to poop, when to look for a kill on someone. They climb up a lot more and they get to GM and they stick there, and they obviously increase the pick rate and the win rate. But like if you're not really that good in Lucio, it's not as simple as just speed boost, it's not as simple as just heal boost. Yeah, it can worry, but like to get the maximum value out of him, you need to know how to move, you need to know how to boop, you need to know how to like use all of the mechanics, which has a very high skill ceiling. So if you can't do all of that, if you don't know all of that, why would you even pick Lucio in the first place? You're just gonna throw your game. People just want to climb, and if you're not really good at your Lucio movements or like carrying, people won't even have fun playing it because they will die a lot. So they'll just play something else instead. They'll play Brick or they'll play Baptiste, like whatever,
Yeah, this is really fascinating. And kind of before we get into why is this work the way it does, I kind of want to catch up anybody who isn't familiar, maybe someone who hasn't followed closely or doesn't know, maybe because they haven't played a lot. How did we get here? Because we kind of alluded to earlier, we had these last great tank debate, the first one, Freedo was like, yeah, maybe we want to see a world where hog is viable, and like Flats was like there with like PTSD memories and he's looking up it with the Mr. Krabs meme where he's a blurry mess running away from something. But he got his overbuffed and he got underbuffed, and yet somehow, as we said, perhaps the community recognized, hey, actually hog is pretty good, let's just pick hog. So how did we go from hog being considered weak to now being such a strong pick, and how did we go from this sort of Zarya being this sleeper pick who's now dominant? Where did the main tanks go? What do you think caused this? Is it as simple as support caused tank changes?
Well, I think Zarya, I can speak for Zarya for sure. I think Zarya has a lot of carry potential if you play her correctly, and enables a lot of the tank choices. Like your second tank choice, whatever it might be. It can be Winston, it can be Reinhardt, it can be Hog. It's not as good on defense Sigma and Orisa, but like all of these picks that can solo carry, you can enable them to carry more by helping them. So for example, if they get naded, you can bubble them. If they want to push in, do something aggressive, you can bubble them. You know, if they get stunned, you can bubble them, or even before they get stunned, if they try to ult, you can bubble them. And then once you enable these people, they'll help you to be more effective, because now you have charge and now you have the space to do stuff, and all you need to do is manage your personal and just beam stuff. You know, I think Zarya isn't that easy to learn and master. I don't think Zarya is that easy to master, but I don't think she needs that much time to actually get the basics on it. You know, just you need a few games, 10 games, 20 games. You just practice it a bit and you're already ready to go. And it's really flexible pick. It's not good in scrims and really high level because people know how to play around the Zarya and they just push into her and they kill her and pull her. But in lower ranks, people don't know how to punish ability usage. So because they can't do that, you're really free on Zarya. Like, Zarya is really scary. Why was Goat's meta? Because one of the reasons was because Zarya was really scary in the Goat's meta, and she could stay alive and dish out a lot of damage. And the same thing is happening right now. She can stay alive and just beam everything down and kill and clear the point, and at the same time keep her other tank alive who's feeding. You know, and that's why I think Zarya is like that good everywhere.
Flats
Large agree.
Out of this.
Yeah, 100%. I think Emong, we play all the time. I think he's got like a 75% or something like win rate on Zarya this season with like hours played, and it's like you only play in like certain situations, really. But it's like, you know, especially if you get one of those Masters games, pretty much where it's like everyone is 3900 or 4K, and then you're at whatever like 4-3, 4-4, and it's just you just know right then and there, as long as you keep the other guy alive, keep him from feeding, and you know, occasionally save a teammate or two and stay 100 charge, you have all the carry potential in the world. So like that's where I could see it like a little bit higher up. But Zarya in general, I think is one of those fun tanks for most people, right?
Yes.
You have the bubble, right? When people shoot the bubble, you hear the boop 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 boop, and you feel the juice coming in.
You feel stronger, you know. I'm powered up. You know,
you know it's coming. You can block shatter with it. You can block other different types of ults. You can save teammates. You do tons of damage. You have the right click for damage. You have the left click for nothing's better than high charge Zarya Nano. And you just sound like an angry. Like, you know, you just feel empowered. You feel like you're having a fun time.
You're like the Death Star. You just beam everything down, you know.
And I think that's an important thing.
I need a flat soundboard now whenever I play Zarya. I need the boop when my bubble gets charged, and I need zang when I'm.
I think that's something we should really talk about today. Is the fun of tanks, and why right now where we are, the tanks that we have to play don't feel as fun. Right?
All right.
Everyone loved the Zarya. The Zarya feels good. It's fun. It like you get the feedback, right? We talked about this a little bit last time, and I think that's something that Zarya brings to the table for all the ranks. You know, because people play Overwatch past us, like up at the top, for fun mostly, right? Like they want to have a good time. And Zarya brings the carry potential, the win potential, and the fun. So you have three big categories that it's going to appeal to all players, as opposed to Orisa, which is just slow, boring. If you guys haven't seen the Samito video on Twitter from yesterday, watch it. It's funny as shit. That is the daily experience of just shooting shield. It's not fun. It's not rewarding. And that is something I think that we should probably get into in a little bit, if not whenever we want, of where we're just not having a good time, really, with where we're at, you know. And there's a lot of different reasons for that, with whether, you know, it's double shield, whether it's nerfs or other heroes being buffed, and in my opinion right now, tank being not only the most least fun role right now, but also being one of the most, I guess, for lack of a better word, abused roles, where it's like you must always conform to these few things, and it's like if you try to play anything else with an already very small pool, you're just going to get destroyed at a high level, you know, and at a low level, you're probably not going to have much fun, you know.
There's so much there, actually, Flats, that I really want to unpack. So while we do that, I'm actually gonna pull up the Samito video that just to have a little bit of context to what's going on. So let me show stream, guys. I'm gonna bring this back and I'm gonna play this for you.
Awesome gameplay coming out from Blizzard Entertainment! Woo! Yeah, baby! Interactive! Oh, shit! Oh!
Looks like my games.
Oh, shit!
Oh no, that's 90% of my streams,
I'm
dude.
so fucking good boy, Bobo!
Okay, I think we get the idea. So
Oh no.
for anyone who, because again, remember that for a lot of the people we're speaking to here, they aren't facing Orisa Sigma, and we can again talk. I really want to spend a little bit of time talking later as well why we're seeing the discrepancies in the ranks a little bit more. But for anyone who isn't familiar, just give us a dummy's guide of like, why is Samito mad? Why are we mad? Like, what's so shit about this?
Okay, I can give you. I'll give you it really quick. So before about a month ago, we were in a spot where, in my opinion, we were okay, and in the community's opinion, was a really good spot for the game, right? Like you were seeing a lot of diversity, a lot of different metas, a lot of different maps, a lot of stuff. My opinion, the main tanks were still underpowered at and like Rein didn't feel great, Winston didn't feel great, Orisa felt terrible, but at least Rein and Winston felt playable of some sort. But Hog Sigma was dominant, Ball Sigma was good, all that
I'm
good stuff.
sorry. I think like all of these characters weren't that like terrible, but at the same time they were playable. You know, they had their
Playable.
spots. You know, you
Playable.
sometimes could play it. You know, and then
They
you
weren't a
roll around
throw.
the
You know
ball.
what?
You know,
Everyone was kind of happy. You know, it's like, you know what?
kinda.
I wish it was better, but I'll take the hit to at least get it once in a while. And then we buffed Brig. And we buffed BAP. That was the scary one. We went from 50 HP per second on each heal to 60 HP per second on each heal. Now, why is that a big deal? It's only 10, right? But in GM, the same thing we were kind of talking about, Freedo was talking about earlier, like you don't have the teammates wandering off. You play stacked. And so that 60 heals instead of 50, you're getting that on 5 teammates most of the time. So you're building BAP ult pretty quick. So then you have BAP ult, which builds very quickly. You have Immortality Field and Brig that cancels dive, right? And you have the long sightline shield break. You'll never get there on a rush comp. So that's what developed double shield again. But Brig was never bad.
Can we also mention the new buff on Baptiste that summons the Great Wall
we're-
of China and
I'm getting
fucking
there.
allows you to shoot through it and then secure everything? It's literally your whole screen gets like you have a second screen on your screen.
There's an IMAX theater just pops up, and it's like the thing is, Brig wasn't bad, but nobody wanted to play her. She had the Orisa effect. Brig wasn't bad, but in high level contenders play, which we hadn't seen any Owl, we hadn't seen any contenders, Brig was being played when she was at 200 HP. She was being played. But because the stats showed she wasn't being played, she got buffed to 225 HP, which is a huge mistake because the hero was already strong. We just got another buff that was not needed. So now you had a force of double shield, right? Because now Brig is strong. So the community that didn't realize double shield was still pretty decent or good with Brig being 200 HP gets the BAP buff and gets the Brig buff, which forces double shield. Now everybody learns double shield's really good still. Now then you get the Baptiste IMAX theater, right? Just to add on to the fun. And now the Brig nerf has come out today, right? But Brig is back to where she was 2 weeks ago, where she was still good in contenders play, but nobody had seen it. So now everybody knows Brig is still good. So here we are with BAP still buffed, Immortality still good. We now have an IMAX theater every 10 seconds and Brig. So it's like Brig is what counters the dive, what counters the brawl, and because she procs her inspire every time she hits someone, so that dive won't kill anything. Rush just can't make it in time. So here we are. It's not because Sigma got buffed. It's not because Orisa got buffed. It's because the other things around it get buffed and force that meta back in. That's why we're where we're at right now.
The scary thing is, Flats, it might have the Roadhog effect, where now that we've learned how to play this comp again, even when the stats go down, that's the thing I want to drive home so much, is that player knowledge and just knowing the synergies and positions and stuff plays so much into all of these stats, all of these things. So that's why I don't like forcing the numbers based on players' performance, because the performance might be dictated by their knowledge and experience.
I
Mhm.
will give you an opinion of mine. So because Flats mentioned, and I know from personal experience, Brigitte, also like we scrimmed on the patch where Brigitte wasn't buffed yet, and Brig was still meta in these scrims. I can tell you for sure, and I don't want to like burst anyone's bubbles, but I'm sure that now that people have seen how good Brig is, even though they reverted the buff, Brigitte is still going to be played in the ranked. And I still think it's going to be double shield, especially with the new Baptiste buff. Because there's nothing that's better with Baptiste than a break, and you're all stacking together and just holding that angle, just camping there. And like people right now are really happy. Yeah, break nerfed, and finally double shield is gone, but it won't be gone, okay? Get ready for months of more double shield. And I'm sure that will happen, I'm like almost sure. Like, it's crazy. It makes me so mad sometimes. We like after a year. So I played tier 2 for a year. For a year, yeah. And the later half of that year, I spent playing double shield. Okay, most of the year actually. And I played double shield, and then I quit, and then I still played double shield, and then double shield was no more, and I was really happy. And it's back again, and I can't comprehend how can it be back again. How can this happen? It's terrible. It's terrible for the game. It's terrible for me. It's terrible for you. It's terrible for content creation. It's terrible for everyone.
Yep.
Nobody enjoys it. Nobody has fun in it. Pro players don't have fun. Casual community doesn't have fun. Just do something.
Yeah, so let me just try and sum up here, just because we're very emotionally charged here. We're very hurt,
Yes.
us tank players. So I just
I'm in
want to try and
pain
sum up.
every
So
day.
the reason kind of there's so much anger or upsetness in this voice calls, because the Sigma Orisa, as much as there might be some of you out there who are like, I like playing Orisa, I like playing Sigma. The problem is, as the tank player, it's just not very interactive. There are some flats, don't worry. There are some people out there. I know one of
looking at
my
them,
mods,
judging them.
my editor, is sitting here
Delusional.
rooting for
They're
the
delusional.
Orisa buffs.
No,
But
no.
look, it's basically very uninteractive, as we've said. You don't do much as tank other than spam shit and hope you don't die, basically, and enable other people to not die. So as a tank, it's very boring. The other aspect, as we kind of flats alluded to, is tank as the role is one where you're often forced by other people to pick what they want, essentially. Very rarely have we been in metas where tanks get to like decide like, today I feel like playing this, because most of the time it's like, no, this is the meta tanks, you got to play them now, and if no, you're throwing the game for everyone else, and then everyone will flame you, the composition isn't right, and the defeat comes down to you, basically, right? So that's where we're at, where as the tanks we're kind of in a lose-lose. We don't get to pick our heroes, and the heroes we're forced onto are boring to play, essentially. So with all that summed up, go ahead, Bogur, you go ahead.
I want to say, like, tank for the last year and a half feels like a jail, and no joke does it feel like a jail. I'm not joking. Especially high ranked, especially even in low rank, you pick the character you want to play. You play Rein, you pick Winston, whatever, and you get shit on for picking that character. You get bullied. You get bullied. I don't get bullied because people know, oh my god, this Bogur can play that character. But I coach people on the side, and these people get bullied for picking anything but the meta, and it's terrible experience for anyone, and they don't have fun. It's not fun to play tank. You just get bullied. Like, DPS players can pick so many heroes, and people, they don't get bullied because they might make it, where it's not like the DPS meta isn't set in stone. And when you play tank, you can't pick anything but the meta. Like, you pick something else, after 30 seconds, you lose the fight, everyone starts, go swap.
Typing Timmy's going at it. Typing Timmy's. Come on, hello, what are you doing?
Typing Timmy's, what a name.
And the reason why, so Flats mentioned about it, why is Zara fun, and why is that character not fun, or Lisa not fun, for example? I think the main reason why, for example, Rein is really fun and Winston is really fun and Zara is really fun is at their core, they're really basic to learn. The core mechanics are really easy to understand. You have bubbles, you have jump, you have charge, you have fire strike. It's all really basic to understand, but it has such a high skill ceiling, and you can outplay so many people with your abilities. I can go in, for example, higher level play, you start learning this character, Winston, you get better at him, and the beginning just jump in and bubble, and then you start learning that you can turn around, so for example, you don't get headshot, and then you start learning that the Anna is gonna wait for your bubble and then go inside your bubble to sleep dart you or wait a bit and aid you. So you start playing around with your bubbles and your jump height and distance, so you can outplay that. And then with primals, you start learning that people are going to save their cooldowns in higher ranks to counter your primals. So you try to bait their abilities before that. And it becomes this, you start climbing up and up and up and up and learning more and more. But when I play Orisa, I don't have that. I don't want to play anyone. I sit there, I shoot shields. I can outplay someone by pressing shift. That's the outplay I get. That's it. The most intense moment on Orisa is when you block a shatter with your shield by accident. You know, that's the most intense stuff that happens. That's the highest of the highs that you get on Orisa. That's it.
Ryan, you already won that game anyways.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just not fun. And the same goes for a lot of characters. You don't get that. Especially on Rein v Rein, you get to duo the Reinhardt. You get to think about the enemy Reinhardt, how he's gonna play. You have to read them. You have to do. It's a mini game on itself. You have Overwatch as a game, and the Rein 1v1. It's a mini game, and it's so engaging. It's so fun. My brain cells fire up, and it all connects, and I feel euphoric. You know, it's amazing. But when I play Orisa, I'm just okay, guys. They use Fortify. I'm gonna put shield a little bit forwards, and I'm gonna push it. Okay. Good job, Bogur. You popped off. You won the fight. And that's it. I reached the skill ceiling of Orisa. That's it. I can't go anywhere else. Like if you put me on Orisa, you turn off the rank, and then you pick a plat player on Orisa, there will be no difference, you know? If you put it like the games side by side, it will be the same fucking gameplay, you know? And that's the difference. That's why the character is boring, because you don't see difference between the different ranks. It's the same fucking gameplay in every single fucking rank.
Yep.
And people say in chat, you have feelings for this. I have feelings for this game because I've been playing this game since day one, and I've invested a lot of time in tier 2, and half of that time was spent in me hitting my head against the wall playing Orisa every single day from 1 a.m. till 5 a.m. and going to bed at 6 a.m. and then waking up to go to university just so I can play a little bit more Orisa, just to maybe get to Overwatch League and play more Orisa, you know? And that's why I have strong feelings for this, because the game was fun. For some reason, they decided to make it less fun, and they start to make it less fun again for no reason. Nobody asked for this. Nobody wants this. Stop looking at statistics about the game, because stats don't mean anything. I really don't think like stats. People ask you about stats, and they're like, "Oh, can you show your stats?" Stats don't mean shit. Like, I'll be honest with you, stats don't mean shit. They really don't. Stats. And if you go to Overbuff and like, oh my god, this character is picked, so this character is broken, it doesn't work that way. It really doesn't, you know? You have to look at the streams, you have to look at contenders, you have to look at lower ranks games, you know? People can just pick, like Freedo said, you can pick Symmetra in certain situation and you can boost your win rate. Does that mean Symmetra is broken and you need to nerf her to the ground? No, you don't, you know? And the same goes for every other character. Like, does it mean that Reinhardt needs to get nerfed because in every rank except GM and Masters, he's the most picked tank? Imagine if they nerf Reinhardt now because of that.
Remember we had that 2 weeks of Rein meta, and they were like, "Oh shit, everyone's playing Rein. Let's take away his steadfast and his shatter." Oh yeah, that was great.
What about the Genji meta? Everyone was so fun. Everyone had so much fun. You know, everyone's like, "Yes, it's Genji meta. I've been waiting." And they nerf after 2 weeks, and it's like, what? Why do you? It's like you go to your child, you give them a PlayStation 4, and you fucking take that PlayStation 4 and throw it out of the window. And it's, why would you do that? Let them have fun and then enjoy the games.
Better have a PlayStation 5 lined up if they're doing that.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you gave them a PlayStation 4 now, they might be a bit upset because they'd be like, "Why isn't it a PlayStation 5?" But
yeah, Mom, what is this? How dare you?
What is this garbage you're feeding me?
Try again, Mom.
No. Yeah, I think just to clarify, obviously whenever we sometimes you see content creators, we get angry or we get very passionate. It's only because we care about the game. I know that there's a tendency to be like, why are you guys so mad? Like, why are you playing the game if you hate it? We don't hate the game. We just want to play the best version of it. So when we get passionate, it's only because we've been in a reset jail for too long, or like Freedo and I just play support now. And I have so much more fun. I started in Platinum. I'm nearly Master now. I'm having fun just chucking orbs at people's heads with Zen. So while we've had a really good addressing there of how it's like for you guys at the top, I do want to kind of get into why we don't see that in all the other ranks. And I want to ask Freedo. I have some opinions, but Freedo, you will probably know as well. These guys are talking about how boring and shit Orisa is and how easy it is to kind of make the character work. Why doesn't it work for the majority of the player base sub-Diamond?
Orisa doesn't work for the opposite reasons that Zarya does work. So when there's mistakes on either your team or the enemy team, Orisa's great when both teams are like stacked and they both have good positioning and you have to like economically just poke out and win. But would you rather, if something was out of position, you have a high beam Zarya charge, or Orisa got the buffs, so her damage is a bit better, so that example doesn't work as well. But if you have a teammate off to the side flanking, this has been my trouble trying to play main tank. It's just getting all the ducks in a row that we don't feed on the outside in ranked. And so I'm trying to make multiple points in my head at the same time, so I'm struggling through the sentence. But you in ranks, you need to be able to flexibly adapt to the situation. And overall, the tank role, I feel, is just more so outside of the top, meta, which is double shield, but it's like a glorified DPS role, basically. The things that I'm saying you have to do in order to rank up, like you got to find yourself in positions where you can frag and pop off and carry the game, because you can't expect the team play to work out. It's too difficult right now. It's not as user friendly or auto. It doesn't automatically do it for you. Whereas in like previous metas, team aspects were so powerful that like if you like one big one I know is a passion for flats. If you didn't have a shield to block Rein's Shatter was such a long duration that your whole team is screwed. But now that Shatter just has that little bit of like, instead of getting all 6, maybe you'll get 1 to 2. Well, then it's like, well, could you have just played Hog there and got similar picks and not even engage in all that, right? Like, so that's how it's kind of devolved, where you have to be able to pop off. So Orisa supports the team too much, basically, and doesn't adapt to the mistakes your team is going to be making as well, which is why Zarya is like she's always been a great tank. And when SVB was doing his Reinhardt to GM attempts, I'm like, dude, I would never try to play Reinhardt in plat. I would just never do it. And now this meta, it's even worse. Like, it's way, way worse. And I do want to go on a side rant about why I think that is.
It's not long. Because Shock, he likes playing Reinhardt, and I recently watched him play on rank to GM on Reinhardt, only, and he was so mad. I was looking at it. I was like, why are you doing this to yourself, brother, man? Why would you do this to yourself? It was torture. I look at the score, it's like 20 wins, 6 losses. Then I look up, it's 20 wins, 10 losses. Like, oh no, what is he doing with his life? Okay, go on, Freedo. I just want to mention this because it like solidifies your yeah.
I would say at the highest tiers, the thing gatekeeping the tank role is how powerful the supports are. But at the 99% of players aren't playing supports that well for that to infringe on that being a problem. The thing that I've come up against is that there's so many matchups from the year or whatever of DPS power creep. I am going to say it, get your shot glasses out, of the DPS power creep of like medium brawly anti-tank type characters that very easily zone out tanks. Whether it be now they're not strong necessarily. Like if you look at win rates and pick rates and all that, like they're not going to be off the charts, but tanks don't really have the ability to block out like a Widow line of sight, or Torb is just destroying so many people. Send me VOD reviews of just like, what we have to do here is just wait for 10 minutes. Like, you get an angle and wait. Like that, like you have to poke out the turret before you go in. I mean, me and Flats had a game that, man, oh my gosh, I don't even want to remember that one. Where like Torb for hard carry games in so many ranks. And Flats is on his DPS role, trying to poke out the turret of Soldier and just getting harassed by Lucio all game. I went back and watched the VODs. I got the receipts. Oh, that was there might be a video soon.
Hard that game, dude.
I'm still mad about it to this day.
Thorpter is like a 7th player in lower ranks. It really is.
It really
just plays him down, and he's holding an angle, and nobody shoots it down. It's like the same as
my GM games, dude.
But I'm on tank in that game, not really able to contribute, because what I really need to do in those games. This is why I eventually just retired from tank for now, and maybe I'll go back with the knowledge I know now, where it's like, okay, those top 3 tanks that we said in GM, you got to play them and pop off with them. That's the only way you're going to reliably win. If you try to like group up and get people to go together and hold hands in the right direction, someone's going to make a mistake, and the whole plan is kaput, and you need to be fragging as Hog or something else. But the 2 things contributed to that. It's like all these DPS characters that, like Sombra, Mei, Torb, whatever, they're not going to be dominating high level play, but they're so reliable to just like stick in a spot, and now the tanks can't move. And healers' healing values have gone down, which a lot of these things I don't mind too much. Like having less healing is okay, but a lot of people were worried that would make healers weaker. It just made tanks weaker. And so I think that's one thing in the exchange of this that we may be forgetting a little bit. Like Hog feels more reliable in ranks because he can just go off and heal himself, play around packs and all that, and he does. Oh, my cam just froze. He can do all that, and he's not reliant on healers. Whereas Winston and Rein, they really need healers to commit with them to, like on the play. And I think as the community gets better, that might improve. But right now, it feels like impossible, basically. So
Yeah.
Sorry,
If I
lots of
if I were
rants
to
in
sum
there.
it up, if I was to sum it up from, because I spent a lot of time watching gameplay sub diamond. I think it's like a couple different factors. The one that screams out to me most is basically coordination and understanding of what your job is. Basically, I think that you guys in GM kind of you all know things subconsciously that people in plat don't, basically, where understanding your role, first of all, what does that mean? Well, basically, yeah, as you kind of alluded to, Freedo, if I'm Sigma, I'm going to block an off angle from a Widowmaker flanking or any DPS flanking. If I'm Orisa, I know which corners to take. But also applies to the players in the team as well, right? So if I put 2 shields down in front of me, I expect some DPS to be back there, and I expect a BAP behind it. I expect a Brigitte or whoever it is behind it, contributing from around the shield. But as Flat spoke about earlier, people in plat or gold, they just like to wander off sometimes. They won't make use of the strength of the composition itself. So if you play heroes like Orisa and double shield, then that basically the job you're doing that you do in GM, which is, hey guys, I made a nice little cozy hut for you with the shields. Just go pop off now while I stand here. Well, your DPS in plat probably won't understand. They probably won't do it. On top of that, the coordination, the fundamentals of like what an Orisa comp runs around, halts, getting halts off, getting your amp matrix off, and actually getting kills from behind it, rather than like some scuffed matrix somewhere that doesn't get any value, there's no one with it or anything like that. So all these fundamentals of coordination don't go down. And when there's no coordination, what works best? Double off tank, Hog, Zarya, right? These guys will work best. If nobody's playing alongside each other anyways, I may as well go in the back line and try and get a hook for a kill. I may as well just get 80 energy and just beam people down. Like, fuck being a Reinhardt, having someone speed me in and taking a good angle and then trying to shatter people, because no one's going to be behind you anyways when you do shatter those people. So that lack of coordination isn't there. The lack of understanding of your role isn't there. And another thing I want to add that I've been thinking about a lot recently is what separates someone in plat from someone in GM. And I think I've boiled it down to 3 things. I think it's 1, obviously mechanics, right? Obviously there's an element of mechanical ability. 2, I think, is correct decision making. I think someone in plat makes like 50% correct decisions. Someone in GM makes like 90% correct decisions. And I think the final unsort of spoken about thing is patience and discipline. Because that's one thing I've really noticed, is that people in GM will wait for the right moment to do something, right? They'll wait for the last second to touch the point. They'll wait till the right cooldown is up or down before they engage. People in plat will just go whenever they feel the fuck like it. So again, that comes down to the Orisa comp, right? In Orisa comp, you want to wait patiently for the right cooldowns, and you want to bait out the right cooldowns to make it work. Similarly with the Reinhardt, the bubble dynamic is so key to Reinhardt. If you're playing Rein Zarya v Rein Zarya, so many people in plat don't understand, well, let's wait for them to burn their Zarya bubbles before I go in with my Zarya bubbles. So when you don't have that understanding, again, what comes out on top? Hog comes out on top. Zarya on her own comes out on top. Sigma comes out on top, because these guys don't need that coordination. They'll just go kill some people on their own. Ball comes out on top. So I think that's, from my perspective, where this discrepancy comes in. Now, guys, having said all that, is there anything you want to add, Bogur?
I want to say that when you mentioned what's the difference, I think you can boil down the last 2 points you made about patience and understanding, or yeah,
Decision
you
making.
can decision making. You can combine them to like game sense. I would say that's all of those. The both things are actually just game sense in some way, shape, or form. And the third one that's really important, and people don't understand it, and I've coached a lot of people that just don't understand it, is positioning. Like, positioning is so important. People don't take high grounds, for example. People don't play the corners correctly. Like, I see so many Reinhardts just wasting their shields. They're holding their shield up and they break. And why would you do that when you can just hold the corner and just wait, chill, relax? It's fine. When playing Winston, like, so many people just go forward in the enemy Reinhardt or Orisa and they just die. Why don't you just jump to high ground, for example? You're playing Sigma or Diva, go high ground. Positioning is really important, and like the patience aspect and all that is another thing. People also are a little bit too patient. Okay, I know how to explain it. I'll try to explain it, but what I mean is, people wait for the perfect moment for something to happen. People wait for the 6-man graph. People wait for the 6-man shadow, and they just don't do it. And it kind of leads to the enemy team using their ults and pushing you, and you are losing, but you never use yours to fight back because you wait for the perfect opportunity. But GM players are always going to wait for the mistake to come in. Like, I will wait for the enemy Reinhardt to make a mistake, and then I'll shatter. I'll wait for the enemy team to waste their lamp, for example, and I'll instantly grab, even if it's 2 people. That's value. You're gonna win the fight for sure. You're gonna win the fight by just killing 1 or 2 people. You don't need to get 6 people in. You know, you don't need to get 6 people with your ult. You can get 1 or 2 people, and that's it. That's all you need to do. Like, if you watch higher level streams, you're gonna see a lot of people just using their shatter on 1 or 2 people, and you kill them and you win the fight, and that's it. You know, you don't need to do anything else. You don't need to look to shatter the Reinhardt. You just shatter the Zarya, who's full energy and doesn't have self bubble. You win the fight from that. You grab the bow who dived you. You win the fight from that. You know, you Sigma the Reinhardt who pinned into your team or something. You know, you win the fight from that. You don't need to always look for these amazing godlike plays that you see in Overwatch League. Those plays happen rarely, and you need your team to help you for that. You know, it's not the same as before. With Reinhardt, you can't just shatter 6 people and kill all of them. You don't have the time anymore for that. You know, you can't do it. Like, the nerf is too huge. I love the times I hit like a 6-man, 2-man, 3-man, 4-man, 6-man. It doesn't matter. I can't kill these people. I just need to kill 1 or 2 people max. I can get 2 people maximum from that, and it's really infuriating. But you have to understand, like, just use your rules. Just do stuff. You know, just don't wait for the enemy team to do stuff. You need to take the initiative and do stuff yourself.
Proactive.
Yeah, that's it. I think in the Metal Rounds, people wait for someone else to be the one to start the fight. Basically, someone else will help people first. I'll wait. But the one is there anything you want to add to that, guys? Before I move on, actually.
Yeah, the last one I would add that I always bring up is APM, which is, even if you have all these tools, I mean, most players don't. So, you know, even knowing how to use high ground, much less taking it, you know, they might not know how to use it. But anyway, APM is the biggest one in terms of, like, you can notice a lot when you do VOD reviews. If you were like wondering, okay, why did I die here, or why did that guy die there? If you don't know, like, if you find yourself asking, a lot of plat players are famous for this, where's my team? You need to know what your team is, right? And if you have higher APM, you may know, which is why I really enjoy, a lot of people don't like them, but unranked to GM streams, I think they're really educational, because you can just see higher ranked players process the game at a speed that everyone else in the lobby can't, right? Like everyone's kind of wondering, and they can just cut through all the noise and find the play, and that won't get tested on you until you reach a level where everyone's got that level of APM and the mistakes are low enough.
Flats, anything to add?
Yeah. I mean, mine's part of that. Like, the one thing I had some before, I kind of forgot, but like the other one was like, you know, taking high ground. Like, you know, even if you get them to take high ground, that's a great step. But do they even understand why? Like, why are they up there?
They don't know why.
Like a Rein. My old favorite one was always Reins that took high ground and stood there with their shield up until it broke, and it's like, why? And it's like, oh, because I'm shielding over the side. I'm like, yeah, but the floor is technically your cover. I'm like, what? I go, back up. See what happened. And they back up, and then like, oh my god, I can't see him anymore. It's like, oh wow, the floor is like a wall. You know, it's like, you know, you're in danger. You just take a couple steps back. No big deal, you know. And it's like, you ever play Call of Duty? You ever have someone head peek you? You use the floor as a head peek. That's there you go. It's you know, it's stuff like that is something that, you know, when you say certain phrases like take high ground, they don't understand like why you're taking high ground, you know. I hate to admit it, I don't get very angry and ranked very often, but I had a really high level game yesterday actually, where everyone on the team was probably about 4,500 peak, 4,600 peak, and we had a very just, you know, random Masters player 3,800, and we kept trying to take high ground on fucking Hollywood, and we kept going to take it, and he would always walk his ass to point and die.
What role was he playing?
Take high Sigma. And he kept going to point and dying, and then he just types in all chat, "Stop going high ground," and like I just lost it, dude. This is like, dude, we're supposed to do this. Like, and guess what? We got rolled by them being on high ground, second point Hollywood, just for the irony, you know. And it's like you kind of sit there and you're like, do people understand like how big the change the elevator was, right? Because when you come out of second point defense now, you go out the right side. You used to always go out the left and just try to take a fast fight. Now you go out the right side, go up the elevator, and take the high ground. And like 90% of my double shield fights now are both sitting on the high ground and on each side of the bridge and just shooting across the bridge with their IMAX theaters now, you know. And it's like, do people understand why we're up there, right? Probably not, you know. So like, if you ever told your teammates or you ever tried to say, let's go high ground, they're probably not going to get it, you know.
So I just want to take that moment, and I want to frame it on my wall and sort of use it as the evidence that Flats has put up. 3,800 doesn't know why you use high ground. Okay, this is so when I say things that sound outrageously like blanket, like no one knows how to play. I take responsibility in some of this as well. I think, especially guide makers and stuff, we got to get to work, man. Talking about maps and angles and stuff, because the problem is, for years things were so broken, you didn't have to learn those things. You just however you interacted with the broken stuff is where you ended up in the ladder, right? When things get balanced, then you have to learn those things to win, but turns out like not enough people know them, so it doesn't really get enforced until you get to that upper echelon of play. Like that, it pains me to hear someone not use the great Hollywood streets after they buffed the elevators to make it so, or the escalator, whatever it's called, to easily get up there. I mean, I've made so many videos about it, but I think another dozen maybe is in order to like get the player base to understand how angles work.
Well, that's kind of the problem, and that's kind of what my next question was going to be, is like, how do we address that gap? Like, how is it that there's certain things that, you know, Flats, Bogur, and the people who play in that really high level of GM, they all understand, and yet a couple hundred SR down, people are Pepegas, you know, like how do we address that gap, and what's going wrong that people have been, like, so many people have been left by the wayside? Like, how do we fix that?
I think it's really interesting to mention that, for example, looking at a player that has a 4.2 peak and looking at a player that has a 4.5 or 4.6 peak is like night and day. It's completely different. It's so different, you know?
Yep.
You like it, like people that watch my stream, your streams, your content and stuff, they kind of imagine the GM is this heaven place where, you know, everyone's really smart and everyone knows what they're doing, you know? But when we're in GM, if you get a 4.2 player peak, that's like getting a plat in your team, you know? It really is. It really is. These people, a lot of the time, don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to play the game. I wouldn't be surprised if 50% of these 4.2 players don't know what's high ground and how to take it and why to use it, you know? I won't be surprised, you know? I know how this happens, but I think the fact that there's such a big difference between a 4.2 player, 4K player especially, and 4.5 is just, I don't understand how it happens. You know, if somebody can chip in and explain to me how there can be such a wide gap in skill.
Well, I think I can.
Yeah, do it.
The reason why is because I'm bad enough to know what it's like in both of these. So like I'm 4.4K peak. And like sometimes I've been combined top 500 a few times. I'm stopped doing that. That's a big mistake. When the game's this hard, like trying to play 3 roles, I think unless you're actually really good, you probably shouldn't do that. So that's why I'm giving up and going to support a little bit. But like the reason is anything below 4K is utter mess. Like it's so chaotic. So like right now I've been playing Ana and just slapping people. Like it doesn't matter the meta or what you're supposed to do or whatever. I'm just playing a hero that I know how to get value on and popping off at the right times, basically. And what I've noticed anytime that I've peaked into top 500 on any role, whether it be tank or support, not DPS, my mechanics are way too bad for that, but on tank or support, the things that you're talking about hit me like a truck. And I'm like, oh God, I didn't know I was out of position there. Like all the nonsense I was getting away with, all the mistakes that I could just overwhelm people that were worse than me, all of a sudden I'm getting hit with. So like I call it an exponential skill curve where players that play at that high of a level for such a long time, they're so much better than the level before. And it's just like the nature of how ranked works, I guess. And part of it is that everything below that, the game is about mistakes so much, and it's still always about mistakes, but there's so few of them at that. When I say at that level, of course I mean when there's all top 500. It's like a 4,500 lobby. Like those lobbies are really pristine. A lot of owl pros in them. But as soon as you start mixing in these other guys, like you get a Freedo in there who's like out of position a little bit, 2 feet on Brig, and I'm just dead instantly. I'm like, oh, and I got to do a VOD review. I'm like, oh, okay, and I got to, I have to study and learn up, right? But that's the reason why, because like players play so ugly. Like the Overwatch that gets played underneath that is so ugly that it's more about your individual pop off, and then you start to learn game sense. Like game sense doesn't even begin until like 4.2K in my opinion.
Yeah. The thing I thought of while you're talking that, it kind of hit me. I got this epiphany. I was like, I think that these people in like high ranked, like the 4.4, 4.5, 4.6, I have been playing with these people and against these people for the last 4 years. It's the same people over and over and over again. It is the same people, and it's just this pool. It's like evolution. And we're like a separate pool of people, and we keep evolving. And we keep going up,
Well,
and we keep being
I'll tell
stuck
you
with
what's-
each other.
I'll tell you what's the part of that,
somebody
by the way.
else. Yeah.
No, I'll tell you. So basically, what I was I also had an epiphany while you guys were talking, which is that, so you guys at 4.5, you guys regularly play, either you scrim, or you play with people who scrim all the time, or you play with Overwatch League players or contenders players. So you guys have access to basically a much better level of play, which is coaching and players who play the game professionally. So you get to sharpen your edges with the best players and the people who are receiving the best coaching. Meanwhile, that poor 3.7 guy in Flats' game, who I my heart goes out to him, because that's me.
I lost
is
it on him, I'll
like
be honest.
he just plays a couple of evenings, every now and then, right? He doesn't scrim. He doesn't have a coach telling him the micro details of these comps. He doesn't have any understanding. So, and I actually see this even at lower levels amongst players who scrim, because I've conducted like some fun events and stuff where I had like, players in Plat go up against players in Master to see how it go. And, I'd get players who are like, yeah, I scrim in a team. My team scrims at like 4K or whatever, and I'm in Diamond. And I was like, well, why are you still in Diamond then if your team scrims at 4K? And they're like, I don't know, rank is just a shithole. And it's like, that's kind of true though, even though they are not necessarily right in that they deserve to be 4K. But the problem is that scrimming is basically a vastly superior experience to how ranked is. But to get through ranked, you have to play down and dirty the way rank asks you to. You have to do the stupid shit, and you have to do the go off on my own, don't play for my teammate style. So you never actually learn until you get there. And then when you get there, you get hard punished. So you might not learn unless you get that coaching and scrimming.
There was a very important thing when you're playing professionally. It's balancing playing ranked and playing scrims. Because, and I'll explain you why. If you scrim like 4 hours a day and you go off and you play 8 hours of ranked, everything you learned in scrims is gonna go to shit. I'm not joking. It has happened so many times, because the things that rank teaches you is so vastly different from what you have to do in scrims and high level. Because in ranked, you need to go off on your own and do stuff. You pick Hawk, for example, and you need to go pop off. You go flank a lot and you pop off. You do all of these solo plays that in high level scrims you're gonna get insta punished for and die. And people that play so much ranked and then go into high level scrims, and they get shit on because they do the same thing in ranked. As they're doing the same thing in scrims as they're doing in the ranked. So they kind of, whatever they learned in scrims, whatever they were like, okay, I need to do this and that, they kind of unlearn it in some way. It's actually, it shouldn't be that way, but in some way, shape, or form, playing too much ranked actually makes you worse in high level play. You don't see, like, you see some players obviously, but they're like already really, they're already set in stone. They really know the difference between scrims and rank. They know how to do, they can turn a switch. I know, for example, Violet plays a lot, like the Overwatch League player. He plays a lot of ranked, and he also scrims, and he doesn't have any problems with that. But like when you're trying to learn stuff, when you're trying to learn and get that level in the first place, and you're trying to learn from, you kind of learn from two different places, ranked and scrims, and it kind of mixes in your head, and you kind of start making the same stupid mistakes you were doing before that, because you just kind of unlearn it,
Flats, how do you feel about all this?
That's probably the best way I could honestly sum it up, to be honest with you. I mean, I was someone when I was in like college, and like I used to work in Overwatch League. I worked 50, 60 hours a week plus. I still held 4.4 consistently. Honestly, it was a lot different then, and I think it's honestly harder for me now because I just play like 15 times as many games. But I totally understand like the whole like, they only play a couple hours here and there, and Freedo, you know what? I got a good example. If I load into one of those games like a 3900 game, I know I can play whatever the hell I want and I'll dominate. We played a Hanamura game the other day. I haven't played Rein like almost at all until like very recently, because I just got a few like really low games, and the tank difference was insane, like between their team and our team, because I could just bully them. It didn't matter if they played double shield, didn't matter if they played Rein, didn't matter if they played ball hog. We just bullied them the whole time because the skill was so different between us. even with only it was like one or two people that like had it, and then like other people that were just like kind of like supporting and just being a part of it. I think that part of that is for someone who maybe doesn't, scrim as often or does scrim a bunch and doesn't play ranked. There's a big difference between people who play, you can tell, I know all the contenders play on alt accounts all the time and they just play for mechanics and whatever. The difference that is brought up because sometimes you have those players that calm a lot. Like you have streamers like say like me and Imong, we calm a ton when we're in games because that's it. Like that's our games for the day. But if you're someone who scrims and plays high level, you probably never talk in ranked. Like there's just no point, because it's just two totally different worlds for you. I think someone who maybe was that would get into those games, I feel like it would be almost like you'd want to try to talk more because like if you were making bad call outs or making mistakes, like people would call you out on it and you'd learn from that. But I've noticed is always the players that I get that I've you never really see them before, or there's someone like they just climbed up or they don't play very often, always very quiet or don't talk at all the whole game and then just kind of make mistakes and move on. And I think that's kind of always been my little frustration that I've ever noticed with the game, because everyone thinks that they know how to play the game. Like everyone thinks they're the best player, like most of the time in their head, it's like, oh, I know we're supposed to push up here. We're supposed to fall back. We're supposed to take high ground here. We're supposed to make these swaps, like almost everyone does it in some form of fashion where they say like, oh, if this player played this, or, oh, if only like we dove their Ana or something like that, It'd be crazy if people actually said their ideas often, how much they'd be wrong or right, And I feel like that's kind of how that high level for me, where I don't scrim at all anymore. It's been like a year and a half, 2 years since I've ever even touched a scrim. Where like if I'm constantly making calls and stuff, and I'll have like, so and so who's like a hit scan alt account contenders player is just like, dude, that was the worst call I've ever heard. And it's like, shit, was it? And then I learned it's like, oh yeah, maybe that actually was wrong. And then I learned it for next time, and I'm still able to like kind of keep up with it. So that's always kind of like been my little thing I've always kept in my head is just like, I hate how quiet my games are for how much complaining and how little ever gets done, unless it's like those really high level games. You get what I mean?
You play in an A. Bogur might know a bit as well, but like EU is even worse because it's like
I've heard.
Okay.
It's just like nobody talks.
Listen. EU, nobody talks. First, people say language barrier, but let's be honest, in GM, everyone can speak like some kind of English. It's not that big of a deal. But honestly, like EU is just a wild place. It's the jungle. You don't like it is really the jungle. There's no way in hell you understand what it is. Like you have these people playing Symmetra, and you have these people playing Torben, and you have these people. And they do the most wild. They do the most wild shit ever, They do insane stuff, It's not like these people don't talk. They talk too much, They talk too fucking much, And not only do they talk so much, dude, they make the most wild plans ever. And you know what? It works. It works.
Yep,
You know why it works? Because nobody expects it. That's what I mean. Like, fuck, like be creative, have fun, do something. Like people are all set in stone and reading the rule book and doing everything by the rules, and they don't allow themselves to be creative. And it's so important to be creative in this game. It's so important to have fun in this game, And if you don't have fun and if you're not creative, why even play? Just to sit there with Orisa and just like shoot the shields, it's not enjoyable. You will win games if you have fun, I'll be honest. I personally believe that if you have fun and try to have fun, you win more than just sitting there doing something that you don't enjoy, at least from my personal experience. From my personal experience, when I try to force myself to play the game and grind the game and I just don't feel it and I don't enjoy it, I will never climb. I won't. But the days where I took like a 3-day break before that, I come back and I play most random shit and I do the most stupid shit, I climb to 4.6. I just like that, because I have fun. Have fun. That's the thing. That's what matters.
Mm-hmm.
And another, like, speaking of master players and stuff, my biggest pet peeve with these players is they can speak up and you can correct them, and most of the time they don't take it well as flats. They kind of just throw the game, they just kind of like, nah, I'm done with you. I don't care. I have 10 alternate accounts, I'm a smart, like, yeah. And when you tell them, listen, dude, we have 5 Overwatch League players, and you have your masters. Can you listen to us? It's like, I don't give a shit. I am GM. I was like, who
Yep.
cares, dude? And my most hated moment is when you tell someone to do something or you explain something to someone, they don't listen to you. Why don't they listen to you? Because they're GM, because they're top 500, and that somehow makes their argument valid. And the fact that you made it to top 500 this one season doesn't mean you're smart and you know how to play the game. As a matter of fact, you don't know shit about the game, and it's so infuriating. It's so infuriating to try to explain to these people why they don't know shit about the game, because you're like, I can be like, I have more experience than you. I have this and that. I play containers. It just makes me seem like a fucking cuck. It makes me seem like this guy who he's too full of himself. So I can sit there and argue with this person, or I can mute him and play my game. I can be done with it. If he's gonna do whatever he wants, I'm gonna do whatever it wants. Or whatever I want, and I'm gonna win the game because of it. If it's chaotic, if one person makes the whole game chaotic, then you have to play along with them. You can't go off on your own. You can't try to play as a group, as a team. Oh, this one person does stupid shit. Everyone needs to do stupid shit to win the game. Literally, like back in the day when there was no role lock, you would have like 3 DPS players or 2 DPS players. You would go 4 DPS, 5 DPS. You would win the ranked game. That was about it. That's it. That's it. Nobody knows how to counter it. Nobody knows how to do anything. They don't know what to do. They scram every single day the same comp. Goats. And then you go into ranked, you have 5 DPS. Like, I don't know how to do this. I know how to deal with it. What is this? This is like a raid boss. You're like, all of my knowledge, because people play by the rule book, and they suddenly they switch off. They're suddenly like, oh my god, I don't know how to play against that because I can't think for myself. I'm done for. That's it. GG's, guys. Go next. I lost.
I think what you're saying is so important, because I just want to break it down, because we're talking about we're talking about a couple attitude things, right? The refusal to learn, but also the refusal to kind of take and share knowledge is kind of what we're getting at here, because the knowledge is there. There are players who understand this. There's coaches who understand this, but somehow it's not going down the ladder, as it were, the way it's theoretically supposed to. Theoretically, every rank should just look like a slightly worse version of 4600 or 4.600, right? 4.6. But it doesn't. It's like, as we've just said, we've established, it's like it doesn't even start until 4.2, 4.3, and then you're getting a proper game. Everything else below that is different levels of mechanical competent chaos. So I as much as I would love to engage in this is human behavior. People suck. They don't want to learn. They just want to flame each other. I would love to talk solutions as well. Like how do we change this? Like how do we do something that makes it better?
I revamp the ranked system. I personally believe they need to revamp ranked. Maybe not everything, but they need to revamp it, because GM players, low GM players, are so vastly different from high GM players, as I said, and they kind of need to cut it off somehow. Because the reason why all of this is happening is because, as Freedo said, you play in this chaotic ranked named Masters, this like purgatory where you don't know what's happening, and you suddenly one game, you're 3.8 and you get into a 4.5 game, and you're like, where the fuck am I? And it's so different. And the fact that it even happens at all is terrible. It ruins the game for the Masters player. It ruins the game for the high GM players. It's terrible. So they need to do something, maybe add another rank, so you can separate so there's something else, because the sudden climb, the sudden difference in skill that you need to have, like all of a sudden, like you get to 4.4, 4.2, 4.3, 4.4, and all of a sudden you don't know what's going on, and you're panicking, and then you go back to GM, to low GM.
So it's to that. That's where I think right now people like you and I have a very different idea than Blizzard, right? Their main priority recently has been for faster queues, right? I mean, I think the most recent developer update almost still proves that.
Yeah, I want to talk about that as well, but yeah, go ahead.
Which I'll say, I'll just say I'm not a huge fan of it, to be honest, but I won't go into it why yet. But their idea is because there's a large pool of DPS players who have long queue times, right? They want to speed that up. So as a tank player, I think I'm one of like 8 tank players left on the East Coast at this point.
Man, it's the same for Europe. There's like 10 main tank players that are playing on a high level, and that's it. If you don't know that main tank player and he's on your team, you lose the game. That's about it. You have nothing else to do.
Yeah. And And that's actually why I've started I don't solo as much as I used to. I used to solo all the time, but I don't solo that much anymore because the way the rank system works is if you are solo, you will get games at 4,300, the same ones you would get at 3,800, because there's a lot of high masters, low GM DPS players that queue during the day, right? Not everyone is 4.5, 4.6. There's very few, right? And even those players, you know, during the mid afternoon are scrimming, right? They're scrimming for contenders, you know, or for Overwatch League. So they're not on, right? Like you just have either the ones that don't play anymore, the ones who didn't have scrims that week, or content creators who don't play professionally but are still good at the game, you know. So what's the issue for Blizzard is they want to have those queues be faster. I know a couple of days ago I didn't stream because I just couldn't do it. I know Elon got 37 games played in under 10 hours. 37 games in under 10 hours. Now, if you don't know, the average for 10 hours is like 30 at max for tank, right? And you're still getting really fast queues, right? Like 30, 33 is like 34 is the most ever I think I've ever had in 10 hours. The reason why that's a problem is because you're hitting queue and then you're immediately getting a game, right? Now you might be sitting there thinking at home and you're like, oh, that's great. You get an insta game. No, I don't want that game though, because then you have a game where now let's put it in perspective. You either just rolled the dice and you just got a 4.3 game or 4.4, you know, plus, and it's gonna be a really high level sweaty lobby. You know, everyone's calming, you know, whatever might be happening. And then you get a 3,900 game where it's very different. And it's very jarring to be swapped back and forth very quickly. And it's not as fun for everyone involved, you know? And I mean, for example, I think like 4,300 2 days ago, and I had a 3,500 other tank. And one of our DPS players was just leaning into him, flaming him. And I had to tell the kid, like, settle down. He's 3,500. Like, he doesn't even belong in this game, like, at all, you know? And it's not his fault, right? But that's what we're looking at is even if I was in the master's queue of 500 SR, we couldn't have even queued together. But the game will put us in together because they're trying to improve queue times, right? So where do we find a balance of that? Because we're at an impasse where or at least some people, would want a better quality game as opposed to a faster queue. Now, for what SVB likes, solutions. I personally think that a revamp would include the ability to choose if you want to wait for a better SR matched game for a longer wait time, or you want to choose quick queue, which is like it will match you as fast as possible in the current system, right? Where you might get a lower game, you might get a higher game, right? You're kind of like just rolling the dice. And I would be curious to see how many people would choose to have a much more balanced ranked game where it's like it takes the time to make sure everyone's about the same skill level, as opposed to the current system where they're just chucking the tanks as fast as they can because there's none left. They're like, come on, go, next game. You know how many times I've played a next game, played the game after that, and I got a guy from the first game, and he's like, oh, hey, like, what's up, Flutz? And I'm like, have you been in queue the whole time? They're like, yeah. I go, oh, I played 3 games. like, you know, like, and it wasn't like I played like Control Point. I played a whole fucking Eichenwald, you know, like we went in overtime, you know. I think that's ridiculous, you know. And I understand that that's what they want for the game, but I think that would be something that I think would be very, very good for both sides, where you could have fast queues and you could have more dedicated queues, as opposed to, you know, I don't know if this is going to lead into it. I don't mean to direct the conversation, but the new pass system that's coming out, which is encouraging people to off roll. And in my opinion, I hate people that off roll that don't deserve that rank. You know, I have an account named Platts, which is pretty well known at this point. Freedom, we played a game one time on it. I am not a GM DPS player right now. I used to be like season 4, but I am not anymore. I'm just not. I don't have the mechanical skill for it. So I made a new account and I play on that because that's the rank I'm at. I'm like mid diamond, right? And I've been there for like 3 weeks. You know, I only play on like once a week. That is, to me, is what off rolling is. I play at the rank I deserve. But if I hopped on my main account, I would place like 3,900 immediately. And if I lost a game, I'd lose like 6 SR. And if I won a game, I'd get like 40 SR because it would think that I'm like a 42, 4,300 player for a while, you know?
Isn't that a placement problem though?
That is a placement problem. Yes.
There's too many problems, I'll be honest
But
with you.
but like that's kind of like the whole off-rolling thing is there's not many flex gods out there, in my opinion, and that's why I don't like the whole idea of like encouraging people to flex onto the tank role, the support role. Why not just make the tank role more fun? And people will queue it,
Well,
right?
I wanted to get to this as well, but I want to hear quickly Freedo's thoughts before I get to the issue of like, the tank role itself. Freedo, how do you feel about ranks change for the systemic level?
I have two bold statements. One of them, oddly enough, like so I think the tank role is really weak right now. However, I would say as far as the fun factor in terms of 99%, remember everything I say has nothing to do with above GM is there for everybody else. People love playing the tanks that are good for ranked. So fun factor wise, I don't think I've seen a major difference.
Go ahead.
I don't know why my Discord keeps lagging. Am I back? Hello?
Yeah, you're back.
This thing on?
Yeah, good.
Okay. I don't think I've seen a major difference in tank queue times when we had different patches. Like we've had so many different patches and the tank queue times is more or less been the same always, no matter what meta we've had. I don't think people are interested in the role, no matter what heroes are meta. And in fact, ones where you don't have to actually play main tanks maybe is more popular. But I'm not, I don't think you should balance for that intentionally. I'm just saying I don't think it's necessarily a bad side effect. Now to the rank situation, largely echo most things that have been said. But my hope is that we move to a weekend tournament system for Overwatch 2. There's been some hints towards maybe something like that could be coming. And that gets treated with more respect from like the high level community, because in other games like CSGO, nobody takes their rank system seriously. No one. Like you play it maybe for fun or whatever, but it's the ESEAs or whatever. It's the higher echelon thing that you really want to play well in, right? So if we had like a weekend tournament, then you solve a lot of these problems where not enough high level players on at the same time. As well, it fixes the solo queue problem of playing with randoms, or allows you to play with a pickup team and see how you do, or with a mixed group that doesn't have to be your contenders team, right, necessarily. And then with enough players on, they can, we can have this separate system that gives that experience that fits that, and we let ranked be the chaotic, like play the hero you want kind of system that it is, because generally the balance isn't too bad for the average player. Like a lot of these complaints we make don't make sense to anybody because their gameplay is so different than high level gameplay. I don't think we should balance for them necessarily, because no matter what, it's going to be a mess. But I also think at the same time, something we have to realize is that when SVB brings up the guy who plays once a week or whatever, most other games that people get into, you can just learn a character or two and be fine. Whereas Overwatch is just such a demanding game to play like that. That's why there's such a gap. This is why there's that exponential gap when you get into that upper tier, because they understand the game just on a whole nother level. Whereas the Sigma that keeps going to the low ground, he's been going to the low ground his whole career. Like that's just, he just walks around and tries to hit rocks, and that's it. And to some degree, we need the rank system in place so that players like that can still have something to do and it not be too competitive. Like in year one, I was like, we should be incentivizing team play, but it needs to be separate, in my opinion. And you need to have the rando queue where the casuals can have a ranked icon, and then you have like, we're gonna try hard, sweaty, see how see if Flats can carry Freedo in this like weekend tournament, and see how well we do. Like people love those events, like when those community streams or the tournaments are on. People come in and like we want to see the streamers play against each other. That's everyone's favorite thing in this community. I was checking out Flat's YouTube channel, which everyone should, by the way. And I believe it might be different now. I think your most viewed video is you six stacking with a bunch of streamers, right?
Yep. Like it's the one game we were allowed to. We only have one
right,
game.
because your SR was that perfect degree, right? Like I don't really want, as a viewer of Flats, I don't really want to see you have to play with these Grandy under 4K players that are just, it's like, well, let's see if we can carry them. That's not fun to me. Like I rather see the a better beautiful form of Overwatch where you're like trying to play together, and that doesn't really happen until you get into team Overwatch.
I wanna wait. I wanna mention something before we forget. We mentioned like in CS:GO, you have this ranked system outside of ranked, yeah. And I want to say something like back in my day, or like a year and a half ago or a year ago, NA actually tried to make a system like that. Okay, there was actually testing for that, and people, I don't remember who exactly hosted it, but you would basically go into this website and you would log in with your battle tag and everything, and then you could queue up into other contenders players, tier 2 players or tier 3 players even, and it was fun at first, but I don't know why, but people just stopped doing it. People just stopped playing it. Like people in contenders in tier 3 felt like they weren't interested in it. Like even in the first place. Like at the beginning it was fun. It worked and everyone enjoyed it. Like the people playing it enjoyed it. And then the people watching it also really enjoyed it because you, instead of getting into these random games, all of a sudden you're playing with Overwatch League players, you're playing with contenders players, you're playing with streamers even that are really good, and it was really enjoyable for everyone. But kind of the community just didn't want that to continue. I don't know, people just stopped
I have a
doing it.
question, Bogur. How
Yeah.
long would it take you to get a game in that system?
Yeah, that's one of the issues there. As I was gonna say, at the beginning it was fine, and then because people stopped playing because people are busy because there aren't enough players at that level, and it was invite only. There you wouldn't find the game anymore. You couldn't find the game anymore. You just couldn't. I'm pretty sure people would wait in queue for days. It's
This is the kind of thing, though, is that I think we have a lot of these issues, but I think fundamentally people, as much as we complain, we're also fickle and we have only a limited amount of time. And as much as Flat's like, Blizzard are prioritizing queue times, at the end of the day, I think if people wait too long, they get bored. Like they don't.
Yeah.
A lot of people do care. Obviously, we might say, I'll wait for a good queue time, but then when you're spending like, let's say you have 4 hours of time to play and you spend 2 of it or 3 of it in queue, eventually you're going to be like, why do I play this game anymore? Why don't I just go play a game that like I can actually play half the time? So I do think that it comes back to that issue of like all these things stem from, okay, well, we don't, your example, Bogur, is like we didn't have enough players interested, period. In Overwatch, it's in on a large level. We just don't have enough tanks, period. So queue times are shorter. Therefore, tanks are either flexing or being spread super thin from like 3,700 to 4.2k, or from gold to diamond or whatever it is. And then Blizzard are rampantly trying to figure out how do we fix this problem, and their issues are all like queue time related. And this is where I want to bring it to what Flat's already brought up, which is the priority pass system. My big concern, although I like the idea, my big concern is it doesn't fundamentally address what is making people not queue up. Is that tank sucks, right? It's like tank sucks to play, and there's not enough incentive to actually play tank itself. So how do we go back to that core problem of like there just isn't enough players playing tank? Flats, you can go ahead now if you want to talk about the whole priority pass or anything.
And after this I'm gonna run to the bathroom really quick. Hopefully that's okay. And
No.
before I get
No, you can't.
I kind of I want to reminisce for a split second before I go into that on what Freedo was talking about. Do y'all remember like 3.5 years ago you'd wake up early in the morning and you'd watch like Seagull, Tim, and Moon stack 6-stack against or Seagull would be on the other team actually. It would be like 2 different 6-stacks, and you'd like there was like a few in rotation, but you'd always watch like a group of everyone new playing, and it was just a blast to like kind of watch and have fun with. I don't know if we'll ever get back to that kind of a level, but I think at some point we have to, if we're going to revamp the system. I like Bogur's idea of revamping, to be honest with you, because there's too many ifs. No, we can't. This is in the way. But when we could do this, but then we're adding no limits comp. We're adding no roll queue comp, open queue comp. We have roll queue comp at this point. When are we gonna get something that encourages team play stacking, or maybe it's an event where on Saturday and Sunday of once every 3 months, there'll be this queue that opens up, and it'll be who can get rank 1 as like, their team, who can get rank 1 queuing up, and I'm sure there's a lot of ways you could have fun with that, but it would encourage people to play, as a group again, especially for high level players. We can't anymore. How many people will come into me a week and they go, oh, you only play with Emo, why don't you stack with J3 SK? You know what I mean? I'm like, you can't. You know what I mean? Like, we can only play in duos, and there's a lot of reasons for that. Like, you know, people would always complain because, you know, the 6 stacking goats at 4 a.m. meme, and, you know, the same thing would be like it was 11 p.m. and you'd bump into Jonak, Fury, Mono, and Carpe 4 stacking, and then, you know, and it's like, oh, well, GG, you
But it
know,
was fun.
but it was a fun thing,
It was
you know,
a fun thing.
it was fun.
Exactly.
That's what I want to get to, and I think that, you know, there's so many things that like on both ends of like competitive integrity, but also having fun with the game that needs to be kind of balanced out. You know, if we look at the Overwatch scene from where it was in the beginning to where we are now, I think it's fair to say we've lost a lot of not only names and creators, but viewership as well. You know, I mean, that's kind of what happens when a game gets older. But, you know, right now we're going to be in a drought of content for until Overwatch 2, or at least till February, or if it gets announced at BlizzCon, which I'm assuming it'll be, right? I'm hoping, you know, like we'll see. But like until we get to those points, we don't really have anything to go on, you know. Like I'm looking forward to Fran put on a thing on Twitter saying all of her donations on stream are going to be going on the Fran Community Cup. So like that's going to be back. That's going to be kind of cool, you know. But it's like, are we at the point where Fran has to host something, you know? Like,
Yeah.
the Echo tournament was good. Like, there's a lot of cool things that can kind of be done. And even if it was something in game where it was just, you know, 1 or 2 days where it's like there's some kind of incentive for streamers and players. Like you could have like all of Revival playing together, but you could also have the 6 stack meme dream team of like Emog, me, J3, we threw Matman on support or some dumbass shit, you know. Like, but it would be fun and it would be interactive and people would enjoy it, instead of every day we just play double shield, you know. Maybe that'll be different.
Like I want to say that bringing group stacks and higher ranked and maybe separating it a bit. For example, when it was a thing in GM, I was really against it. I hated it because I enjoy playing solo most of the time. I really enjoy it. It's really like I don't care about winning or losing that much. It doesn't matter to me. Whatever. It's just I've hit the 4.6. It doesn't matter. I don't care about it. I just want to play my game, you know. And I hated it back in the day because I really try hard at, you know, I really want to grind. I had really grinding mindset, and it would be really boring for me, and it would really crush my soul when I would solo queue and all of a sudden I would get a 6 stack, you know, of pro players, of like Overwatch League players or anything, and I'll be like, I'll be so crushed because I know I can't win this game. Whatever I do, I can't win this game. Whatever I can come up with, I can't win this game. It's impossible to do anything. It's insta loss. But the more I play the game, the more, you know, today, for example, I understand that it was really important for the game because if you make it happen, first of all, it's going to be way more fun to watch. For sure, it's going to be way more fun to watch. I would look for, I don't like watching Overwatch content that much, but I would look forward to watching a stack of 6 streamers, you know, playing the game against 6 Overwatch League pros or something, because it's fun. You know, these people are your friends. You watch it, you want to find out who's going to win. You know, it's more high level. It's more interesting than just some random people. And also it could also fix a lot of issues with, as I said before, with scrims and ranked, is if you could actually queue up with your team or queue up with your half of your team. You know, you can now practice for scrims. You've practiced synergy. There's some point to playing ranked, so now we have more people playing ranked, you know, and it's way more enjoyable. You get more viewership. What happens? More people come and play, so there's more people playing now. There are better queues. And another thing really important for you to make tanks like the queue times and everything fixed, you need to make tanks of like more fun. There's nothing else to do about it. Like the tanks that are fun right now are not fun. That's it. That's the reason why people don't play tanks. It's just not fun to play tanks. I don't know a single person that wakes up in the morning is like, damn, I really want to play Orisa today. I'm really excited to play some horse for 8 hours a day. You know, it's really exciting, you know? Like, make Winston Reinhardt meta again. I can promise you that a lot of people would come back. Even people that stop playing, a lot of tier 2 players would come back. A lot of some streamers would come back. You know, people are gonna come back if they can play their favorite heroes. They're really fun, first to watch and second to play. You know, it really is like that, I believe. And then like it's gonna be slow process. It won't be instant. But if you combine like a better queue system with groups and everything, and you rework the meta a little bit and make the tanks more fun, you could actually go in a steady pace towards the old school Overwatch where it was really healthy. I don't think Overwatch right now is a bad game, but I feel like Blizzard is too focused on some random stats or some other stuff like what would the casual community think. We need to fix it for the casuals, but if you only focus for the casuals, then your try hard fans are just gonna leave. They won't be there, and the people that really carry games, the people that really make the games alive and feel alive, are the people that always stay there, the real hardcore fans. These are the people that carry each game, like Path of Exile, like Warframe, the hardcore fans. Like if you have that strong base that is there always, the casuals are always gonna come in. They're always gonna be there because for example, right now, I'm gonna quit Overwatch, for example, and in 6 months I won't do anything. And in 6 months I click Twitch and I see that all of my favorite streamers, all of my friends are six stacking, and they play Reinhardt Zarya, and the people are having fun and laughing. I'm gonna be like, damn, I want to go back. It's gonna like push me into the game again. But if I quit the game and after 6 months I click on a stream and it's the same fucking horse sitting there with her fucking needle gun shooting at a fucking rectangle for the entire game, and the streamer looks at the camera dead inside and doesn't care about anything, there's no emotion, believe me, I won't come back to the game. There's no reason for me to come back.
So that, I
I'm
mean,
gonna be right back.
that's a sort of hallelujah type rant, but Flats and Freedo and Switch, bear with for a while Flats goes to the bathroom. Just pretend that they're reversed. But I mean, I think that hits the nail on many people's heads. And I want to, get to specifically how do we make these tanks more fun in terms of balance. But Freedo, I know that what Flats was kind of suggesting was essentially a weekend tournament, which you've been banging on about for quite a while. So I want to give you a chance to kind of say your piece on it.
Well, I'd put money that it's coming at this point. Like, it would be such a mistake. They have it in other games. It clearly is the only way to achieve this. And the beauty of it, a lot, we talk about streamer dream teams and stuff, but it's a separate SR for a time period. And with that, then like me and SVB could play with a bunch of golds and see where we get. I mean, how many Jane videos are 1 GM and 6 golds, like, or 5 golds or whatever, right? Like that's half his content, it feels like. And people love these things though. Like they it's like SVB, you do videos like this as well, where
yeah, people love it.
Do you belong in GM? And people love these thought experiments where you try to take someone out of that chaotic ranked environment and what do they do in another one? And this has basically already been done. I mean, Black Ops 2 years ago on the Xbox 360, you could really easily group up with some people, click a couple buttons, and now you have a team. And this is your team. You go into ranked with your team and you have a team SR. Now, granted, COD is a really simple game and there's a whole bunch of other things, but my point is it shouldn't be as hard to create a separate SR. Now, the thing we have to know when we sign up for this as an Overwatch community is you are going to get destroyed. And a lot of teams, a lot of players you think are good are going to get destroyed because the meme dream team going up against a contenders team likely is just going to get rolled over. But that's the beauty of if you do it in a tournament, double elimination, you'll be able to get places where you feel competitive. But like there will be roles. Like in Overwatch, I always think it's such a terrible thing that people say to the devs, but they talk about wanting to have a fair, close match. And competition, especially Overwatch as a game, doesn't work that way. It's like, did they use the high ground right or not? It's like you just get blown out. Like we've the fabled Volskaya game with me and Platts on his hit scan, right? It's like one team understands that Volskaya B elevator or platform is the whole game. And the other team doesn't. Like I might do a video on this eventually, but I looked back and our Sombra player is not marking the flank, and there's a Lucio Smurf on the enemy team that's just rushing at us, booping us off the high ground. Like he knows the map because he's a higher ranked player. You can tell the way he's controlling the map. He knows the map, and we have a teammate who is on like a placement account or something. What's the deal with placement accounts, by the way? Why do they always feel like they're out of their depth? I know maybe because players like haven't played the game in a while and they come back, but I feel like the SR at matchmaking needs to knock those guys down a tier or something. But anyway, my point is, like, you're gonna have these insta losses where you don't get the high ground of Hannah or a B and you just lose. Like that's just gonna happen, and that's just the way Overwatch works. But if you play in a series and if you play with a team, then you don't have the ranked problem where this is the reason why I quit playing tank for now. Anyway, I may go back, but what Bogur was talking about with like trying to shot call for randoms, I'm kind of through. I'm through trying to convince people that I know a thing or two about the game and try to beg that. Listen, you have to understand. You gotta take your insta kill ult to this spot and press it towards them so we can win. I'm sick of playing tank and not have, and not them not going the direction they need to go. Like I'm sick of it. But if I played with some friends or in a group and we could work these things out and improve over time, then that's a completely different thing. And then I think that's when you do see people have excitement for playing ranked, or tank, I should say. People like playing tank in a team. I think I've spoken, and interesting to see what SVB says about this, because you speak to a lot of players that scrim and play in these different lobbies. But when you know you're not going to have, I'm trying to find an expletive word that isn't too dirty, but we're not going to have the randoms that won't listen, random Andes or whatever, like you said. When you know you're going to have that, then it's a completely different emotion playing tank, because you know you're putting your life on the line to set up somebody, right? But if you're playing with randoms all the time and they don't listen, and then their throw makes your pick worse, no matter what the balance state is of tank, I feel like that is horrible, because all the things that we could say about the meta and like, well, you got to pick these pop-off tank picks that are basically just glorified DPS in order to win. That's kind of been true for Overwatch for years. It's like we forget that, but like that's, in my opinion, that's how it's been. Like if I look at some lower ranked gameplay, oftentimes it's just, well, pick a tank that has a mechanical skill ceiling that lets you go frag the enemy, and that's how you get out of that rank. But players want to access the actual team version of the game, and that's why we should have the two-tiered system. That's been my rant, and I am now done talking.
No, I agree. And to your point, yeah, the whole trade-off of tank is like, I will give my life for a cause, and if there's no cause, if everyone's just feeding and flaming you relentlessly, then it just becomes entirely pointless to play tank. And I know several tank players who are in that situation where they scrim and they feel like they'll play Orisa or Rein for someone else, but then they get in ranked and it's like, fuck this, I'm just gonna go hog. But and also to the tournament, I think there's also many ways to do it. Like, some people might have heard that and be like, well, I don't want to play in a tournament and get obliterated by, Flats and Emong in a stream squad. But there's also ways to do it. For example, in StarCraft, like, the tournaments are based in your own tier. So you can have a tier for players who are in Diamond. And I played, I used to have a lot of fun. Like, I recently I went back in after a while. I played in a Master tournament. I was like, the most delighted I was, because I was like, wow, I won, and like it's like a big vindication. But if I got put up against, like, I don't know, fucking Serral or like literal pros, I would have been like crying. So you can have it tiered as well. You can have the tournament tiered. So it doesn't have to be intimidating, but the point is that it gives you the reward for, like, yeah, I'm playing with my team, and yeah, we're Diamond, but we're the best Diamond players around. Like, we're really good. We were rewarded for our gameplay. So I completely concur with all those things. But I do want to add, because, Bogur mentioned in his sort of passionate speech, I won't call it a rant, passionate speech.
Which one?
About Winston and Reinhardt should be meta, basically. And that's a question I want to ask, and then I want to ask Hal. Is like, are these tanks core to the Overwatch, like, fun Overwatch experience? And if yes, how do we balance the current tanks we have to make that the case?
I think the game was at its most healthy state when Orisa was picked sometimes, like, for example, Well and Sanctum, and sometimes on the, like, Paris, for example, because I would even have fun playing Orisa there. It was fun. It was fun to play Orisa there. It really was, because it was a different gameplay. It was a different play style. You play Reinhardt and Winston, you would go in, and then on Orisa, you'd sit there and you would think about their positioning. You would think when you can pull, you would call stuff, and it would be fun. But it's only fun in these situations. When you start playing the same character every game, it gets really boring, especially Orisa. And I think the game really was its healthiest when you could play when Reinhardt and Winston were meta, When Rein and Winston are meta, I think it's really healthy for the game. I think everyone has fun. I think the main tank players have fun. I think the compositions that are played with these main tanks are fun to watch and fun to play. And because I think that every composition, okay, so here's a little bit of an insight. from what I think main tank, and from my experience, main tank is the core of every team. It's the core of
Yep.
every professional team. It's the most important role. There is nothing more important than a main tank player. Protect your main tank players. If you have a good main tank player, marry him. He's so important. It's the most important thing you will ever have in your life. Because they're the core. And whatever he picks, you need to pick around them. That's it. If I pick Winston, we're going dive, or we're going Zarya something else. If I pick Reinhardt, we're going rush, or we're going something like. If I go Lisa, we go spam. If I go Bo, we can play dive, or some weird ass comp. If I pick these characters, the team is gonna build around me. So because Rein and Winston are fun characters to play, they also enable other fun characters to be played. For example, if you play Rein, now you can play the fun off-tank player character called Zarya, because Zarya is really fun to play as well.
Mhm.
And now that you're playing these two characters, now you can play Lucio, which is a really fun main support. And because you're playing Lucio, now you're gonna play the really fun off-support character, which is Ana, or like maybe sometimes Moira, but forget about Moira. But Ana is really fun as well to play. And then you're gonna pick some DPS player. Like DPS are gonna play whatever they want to play now. Honestly, it doesn't like I think DPS is such a flexible role. You can pick whatever they're smart. There's for every situation there's like one or two picks, or at least two picks that you can make. They have a fire, you can pick like 3 hits kind of heroes. If they have a whatever the fuck you want to rush in them, you can play Reaper, you can play Mei, stuff like that. You can even play Doomfist. And it just creates a really fun dynamic. So now we're gonna go to Winston. What does Winston enable? Again, it's gonna enable sometimes Zarya, but most of the time it's gonna enable Diva. And I think Diva is a fun off tank to play. You can eat a lot of stuff. You can use your matrix in a lot of creative ways. You can use your Diva bomb in a lot of creative ways. You can use your abilities in a lot of creative ways, and outplay the enemy. And now that you're playing this character, again, you're most likely going to play Lucio, or if you want to play it a little bit more slow, you might play Zen, and you might play Ana with that, or you might play a Mercy and a Pharah, and everything's really fun. But when your main tank character is Orisa, nobody has fun. It's jail for everyone. You get sent to jail instantly. You go there and you stay there. Because if I pick Orisa, now what happens? You have to go Sigma. If you go Sigma, now my backline needs to pick Brig Baptiste. Nobody enjoys that. And now, because we're playing that, we need to play Mei and some other weird stuff that nobody has fun playing. Like whatever you pick for the DPS card is no longer fun. Even if I play hitscan, even I play spam, you're gonna be shooting shields nonstop. You're about to kill somebody, they get lamped. You go in for a kill, they rally. You go in to kill somebody else, you get Sigma Matrix. You go in, you try to kill the tanks, I don't know, something else happens. Say Fortify, for example. You're playing the game, you get fucking flown in the air by the Sigma and you die instantly. It's no longer fun. So I think for the game to be really fun, these two characters, which define everything else, need to be meta. Because once these characters are meta, everything else is gonna fall into place, and then you can play. I think Orisa, I think Bo should be not meta picks, but should be played only sometimes. I think they should be like
If you're
sometimes
really good at them, like
not only if
exceptional
you
ball players.
Yeah, okay, exceptional ball players, for example. Exactly. For Orisa, if you really want to, I think cheese comps aren't a bad thing for the game. I think they're fun. Sometimes getting against the cheese comps, it's fun, it's interesting, it's different. Orisa is a cheese pick. Orisa is a fun pick on different maps because now you can outplay them in a different way. Having these characters as meta ruins the fun for everyone, because it shouldn't be like that. It never should be like that. And the fact that Blizzard keeps pushing for these characters to be hardcore meta and meta defining instead of just fixing the like Winston and Rein, or nerfing other people, or just buffing them. Like nobody complained about the Reinhardt buffs. Winston hasn't had a buff for a year and a half. Can you imagine that? For a year and a half, Winston hasn't had a buff.
You got the
Reinhardt-
100 HP shield and 3
Oh
seconds
no!
bubble.
Yeah, Winston is meta now, guys. But it was a year ago, though. Do you know that? It was a year ago, those buffs. And the Reinhardt buffs were a year ago as well. Imagine, for a year, these characters haven't been buffed at all. And every other character has been buffed. Every single character except those characters have been buffed. So they're left behind,
Ryan's weaker now than he was on release, in my opinion. I
Yeah,
don't
of
care if
course.
people say he's faster and has a tiny bit of steadfast, which literally does nothing. I don't care. The shatter was the biggest part of his key.
You know why, Flats? Because every other character got buffed. That's why. That's one of the few reasons why. Even fuck the shatter buff, okay? Like the shatter buff is really important, of course, but it doesn't matter. Even if you had 2.5 shatter stun, it would still be a weak character for sure. because every other character is just so much stronger than the release. Every single character is so much stronger. Like they released Reese, they released Bo, they released all of these characters. They buffed these DPS characters time and time. They buffed Reaper, they buffed May, they buffed McCree, they buffed Farah, they buffed I don't know, Symmetra, they buffed everything. They buffed Junkra, they buffed every single DPS character. So why would you play Reinhardt if your shield is gonna melt instantly like butter? I can't get to them. I will die insta.
Yep.
So my questions would be: firstly, Freedo, Flats, you guys, Flats, you seem to agree. Freedo, you haven't said anything. Do you agree? And if yes, how do we change them? How do we change these guys?
To add on to what Bogur was saying, when he says meta, I think it's important for us to communicate that to Blizzard that means viable for most maps. But I like saying maps because Orisa and Ball, as long as you have maps, map design, new maps, different maps, change the maps up, rework maps. I want to keep saying the word map so that they look at maps instead of like because the problem
Balance.
is if you put stats on these characters that should be map specific, they overtake onto maps where they shouldn't really be good. That's the problem. And I do largely agree that Rein, Winston are the most interactive team comps where they play very fluidly and very fairly for both sides of going against them or playing with them. And then any of those other picks, we should be looking at trying to find out maps to incentivize their play styles instead of like, well, let's just like force some stats in so that we can get all our pick rates to a nice. It's like someone at Blizzard has OCD and they got to have everything be equal. It's like we must have no, it's mutually exclusive. Like they
Blizzard
can't.
has the Thanos in there, and he's like balanced as the whole thing should be. It's like,
yeah, like that's the wrong way to go about it. It's an asymmetrical game that you want to center on the fun, not center on just pick rates being plus or minus. That's the wrong way to go about it. There was another point, and I've lost track of what the plot was here. There's that with the maps. What was the other question?
Well, how should we balance them then? Like how should we
balance it? Yeah, the other solution I thought of as well. Some of you that are in the creator Discord may have seen me send this to Jeff himself, but I am hesitant to ask for anything to ever be buffed ever because of the downsides that it can have. But I think due to the state of the game, I don't think anyone would complain if Winston or Rein got a little bit of love right now based on all the problems that I've talked about. The other option is a lot of these other DPS, I think maybe could be scaled down a bit. Like, does Reaper need to be able to reload and just destroy you? Does Torb have to have an escape? Does Hanzo need to have the best lunge? And the thing is, I mentioned all these DPS. A lot of them aren't even that good in the category, but they're just good against tanks, right? And that's the I think the reason why you kind of have to end up going to the Sigma Hog Ball, the holy trinity of ranked tanks that can pop off on their own, because there's so many DPS that just roll you otherwise if you don't have great coordination and it's ranked. The other side of things that makes me a little bit more hesitant is that I really just am waiting for the sequel and us to get some team Overwatch going and start using that as the metric of like, okay, what do teams in Diamond do with this patch? What are their stats? Because I want to see players that are attempting to play real Overwatch get their performance evaluated rather than the ranked BS that I see every day in my games, in VOD reviews. It's so ugly that I don't know. It's sniffing entrails. That's what it is. It's like, oh, which way is the wind blowing? It's like, no, it's a useless way to go about it. But at the same time, I don't think anyone would care if Rein had 2,000 shield tomorrow. Do players hate going up against all barriers, or is it the ones that are attached to these super poke comp characters that are like Hog plus a barrier? That's what Sigma is. I mean, he's just a Roadhog with a barrier too. Rein and Winston have harsh trade-offs to when they use their shields. Winston, he has to dance inside it, and you might be able to just step in there with buffed Reaper and bam, and he's dead, right? You can punish him. Winston can't do two things. Reinhardt can't do two things at once like Sigma and Orisa can. So even if they get a little bit of stats, then they'll be. I won't have to tell all of my viewers and anybody watching the show, probably just play those top three tanks that can carry on their own. Then maybe I could go back to playing tank if the stats were forgiving enough in order to do the job that you're supposed to do. Whereas right now, if you try to play Rein or Winston, like unless your team plays perfectly, you're just not going to get the value out of it, and the enemy's going to pick hog and flank your team, and then you're like regrouping half the game, and what's the point, right? It's just it's nonsense. I also don't necessarily think people dislike that gameplay at the same time. Like I don't know if normal ranked players prefer having to play the tanks that we love, right? This is why I'm trying to like split this a little bit to we're the hardcore community where we appreciate Team Overwatch. Like definitely they should be, we don't want to Risa meta for Team Overwatch, but I don't know if ranked, we'd have to do polls and figure this out.
Yeah.
But like, does a ranked player want to have to play Rein because he's so sick? Like, I don't actually know.
Wait.
Do they like playing hog?
Wait.
Well,
We
An
watched
average
the-
player. I mean,
we watched
not-
the yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. Just for a moment. We looked at the statistics, and for most of the ranks, people actually played Reinhardt the most. And I
Even
think
when
that
he's
the fact-
terrible.
even when he's terrible, and the reason why people in lower ranks play him is probably because they have fun playing him. Because they don't care about the meta. So
There's
if
also
the
a
meta,
perception though as well. Like everyone, no one knows how to play a comp that isn't Rein, and that's another problem.
Yeah.
So
maybe.
It's
but
tough to make decide like sweeping statements on this one because we just don't have any actual
we need
solid
more
evidence.
statistics.
But
obviously.
anecdotally,
go
I
off
think
the
that
top,
most people. Sorry, I'll get to you in a sec, Fran. Sorry, I'm interrupting you, but I just wanted to add that anecdotally, I think most people enjoy having either Rein or Winston in their team, and most Reinhardt and Winston players I know don't get sick of the hero; they get sick of getting shit on the hero. So that's my 2 cents. But Flats,
Well, I mean, if we have two sides of the argument, we have okay, well, if everybody, let's say what everybody else wants, and if everybody else is playing that, wouldn't that kind of point at that's what they want? But if we're saying that's not good enough, then let's go off the top, and the top is done with double shield. It's done with it, and a hero like Arisa just does too much, right? Like the reason Rein doesn't work against Arisa is because you have to walk at Arisa using shield and then drop your shield to start hitting the Arisa or whoever's behind it, right? The Arisa just never stops shooting. You just keep shooting the whole way there, and you still have the shield up the whole time. Plus you have the pull, plus you have the fortify. You have to do other things to use Rein. If you want to pin to go for like the big play, right? Let's say like, okay, like the Arisa already used fortify, I can pin her and we can one tap her. You have to drop your shield, start the rev up motion, and then fly across the map to wherever you hit. That whole way you're getting shot, right? You can die before you get the play off, while Arisa can just keep backing up, and holding left click and has a new E, which is his shield, and then has a new shift for fortify, and just does them all at once, right? That's why I think a hero like Rein, and you know what? And I came into the last one of this, and I was like, listen, the only thing I want is a Rein shatter buff. That's all I want. But you know what? I'm done with that. I'm done with it. I take it back. I don't want just that anymore, because Bogur makes a great point where. And I've been saying this for a while. Rein specifically is weaker now than he was on release, specifically. And Winston is technically stronger because of like the micro buff. He got 100, but like the game has evolved so much. You have a hero like Echo, where if you are below half health, it does 200 damage per second. Do you know how hard it is to get a diva below half health? It's not really that difficult, right? And like if she starts, and most divas will go up, uses like their armor is like 200 of their health already, right? So you want to take damage, and if you start to back out at the 300 HP, Echo just chases you, and you're dead in 1.5 seconds, right? Like. And that's not just to someone like Diva. That also goes to a Rein shield as well. If your Rein shield, which is currently at 1600 HP, goes below 800, and an Echo pulls out her little tri-beam and just puts it on your shield will obliterate, right? And if you happen to be below 250 health when she puts the beam on you and your shield's below that, you ever watch a Rein player be at like 500 shield and about 200 health and watch an Echo beam? It's incredible. It's like 750 damage in 3 seconds. Just gets deleted. That's what we have now. We have that. And if that's what we're going to have, and that's what we're okay with, like, listen, like, if they don't want to play with more damage numbers, like, we've seen Hanzo go up and down from 60 to 70 to 80, like hundreds of times. If that's what we're comfortable with being there, it is time to have these older heroes catch up. And whether it's, we've already thought about the idea of steadfast, right? We got it up to 50, and then like, oh, it's too much now, it's back down to 30, and it doesn't really do anything. Doesn't do anything at all, right? And you have to do other things like drop your shield to swing, or drop your shield to charge. if you're taking a risk to make that play, which other heroes don't, like Orisa or Sigma, then those plays should have bigger impact because you're making a risk reward by dropping something to accomplish something else. So buff it.
I think what what you said makes a great point in the sense that the truly fun characters in any game, and especially in Overwatch, are the characters that have a really good risk reward system. Those characters are fun. In my opinion, Orisa doesn't have a risk reward system. You take no risks on Orisa. Sigma, you take no risks on Sigma. On a lot of these characters that people don't enjoy, you have such a low risk factor. You don't take risks, and if you don't take risks, it's ultimately not as enjoyable. You know, the people that really enjoy these characters, like Orisa and Sigma, are the people that just want to take it more easy. You know, the people that want to take it more casual. They don't want to think too much. They don't want to grind too much. They just want to play. You know, they want to play a bit, win a bit of SR, lose a bit of SR. It doesn't matter. You know, they want to chill after work. But like for me and you and like a lot of the other gamers that really want to get into a character, when you're missing that risk rewards system, like for example on Reinhardt with the charges you said, with the far side, every single ability you use on Reinhardt puts you at risk. Even the shatter, like if you need to calculate when you want to shatter, because in higher ranks now when you're shattering, people are going to think about, and now you can get stunned while shattering, and if you do that, you're going to die, for example, most of the time. For Winston, if you jump in, you're taking a risk. You know, you need to use your cooldowns and your movement precisely, so when you jump in and use your bubble, you don't get stunned and die instantly, because you will die instantly. When you play Diva, you have this resource management game with your matrix where you can take a risk by holding your matrix for longer, but then in a second you die because you no longer have matrix, so you need to manage that. So there's a risk reward system. Again, with her ultimate, there's a risk reward system. If you ult, now you're very vulnerable, so if you fuck up your ult, you will probably die. Now Zarya, if you waste your personal bubble to get more energy and you get pushed on, that's a risk reward system. You die again. Now when we get to Risa, Sigma, Bo, and even like Hawk gets punished by Ana and stuff, so I won't put him in, but Risa, Sigma, and Bo, a lot of that risk reward system goes away. Like Bo, the reason why it goes away for Bo, even though he can get really like hardcore stun locked and whatever, and take a lot of damage because he has no shield, he has his E and he has a lot of movement. So if he goes in and he uses his E correctly and gets like 4 or 5 people, now he has over 1000 HP, you know, and now he can just roll through the enemy and he's out, you know. It's Bo is still a fun character to play if you're really good at him, but he isn't. The reason why Bo is better than Winston is you can get away with way more stuff than Winston. Winston is
more than primal.
Yeah, currently Winston is very one-dimensional, and Bo is like 5 dimensions ahead. You know, you can do whatever the fuck you want on Bo. On Winston, you have 2 playstyles. That's it. Orisa, Sigma, they take no risks. Why Brigitte, Baptiste are good? You're taking no risks again. Brigitte, you rarely take risks. You're holding your shield, somebody comes close, you bash them, you stun them. Yeah, of course, there's some kind of gameplay where it's like you learn and get better. But again, you're not taking as many risks as, for example, Ana. If you go in with Ana and use your sleep dart preemptively, I will jump you as Winston and kill you instantly because you fucked up. You've made a mistake. I see a sleep dart, you're dead. That's it. I am like a homing missile. On you. That's it. You're fucked.
You hear it too. It's like, what was that?
You're fucked. I see it across the map. I hear it. I'm like, instant. Where the fuck is she? You know? And I go on her and I kill her. You know? It's like Jaws. And she is fun because you risk reward. You watch ML7 play. He doesn't make these mistakes, and he pops off playing this character at the highest level. It's such a big difference. You lose your risk reward system again. You want to go for these boot plays and stuff. Well, you need to position correctly. You need to understand when to go in, because if you just go in, you're gonna die. Now, if you go Baptiste, there's no risk. What is the risk? Your team is going low HP, or break. Your team is going low HP. Your team is dying. You put lamp. Everyone's immortal. That's it. That's the risk. The risk is fucking up your lamp. That's it. You don't get to risk anything else. You have high damage. You have high healing capability. Your ability is like an ultimate, and your ultimate is the Great Wall of China. You know, it's crazy. It's wild. That's why it's not fun to play these characters, in my opinion.
So I want to just add 2 things to that. Firstly, I conducted a quick poll in Twitch chat asking them which tanks they like to play, since we were curious. So 61% say Rein, Winston, 32% say off tanks, 5% say Ball, and 2% say Orisa Sigma. I was limited in the you can only have 5 options. You can only have 5 options in Twitch chat, so I couldn't put them all down, but that was the rough breakdown. Obviously anecdotal, and there's people biased here, so there's bear that in mind.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I want to add is, again, I think we all agree with kind of what's being said. I'm looking to see what can we present to Blizzard and say, Blizzard, do this. For me personally, I said this idea in the first Great Tank debate. I want Rein, at least for Rein, I want him to have a rage mechanic. I'll say it again for those who didn't catch it the first time. I think the damage, whenever Reinhardt takes damage, he should build a rage meter that scales up how much his resistance to CC goes, so that when he's at max rage, it maybe gives him like 40 whatever percent is balanced rage like CC resistance. Because I think firstly it helps with scaling the character across ranks, so that you know when you're playing Reinhardt well. Right now, if you're in gold and you're playing Reinhardt, you have no clue if you're playing Reinhardt well or not, because your teammates aren't even around you half the time. So it's like, what am I doing? Am I even holding the right angle if nobody's here? But if you're building rage, you're like, okay, I'm doing something right, and I'm surviving, right? Because like a Zarya charge, it would die it would go when you die. So you have this sort of maintaining it, keeping it as a resource, which helps you, understand if you're doing well. And the second thing is it makes a good Reinhardt scary, which right now he's just not. Like right now, Flats, I could put you in like a plat game, and if I had like a team who just knew how to play double shield, you'd probably still get rolled, because they'd be like, who the fuck is a Flats? Like I'll just CC this guy.
I did that with Jane. I don't know if you've seen that video.
Oh, the God mode. Yeah, of course. You actually did that. So you literally that's what happened.
They pulled out a May, and I actually got like really slowed down. Like I went from like hardcore rolling to like, I gotta pull the brakes a little bit, you know?
And that's the thing, like that shouldn't be the case, because if you put a top 100 Widowmaker, like I've seen that same God mode, but with like Widowmaker players, and they just shit on everyone. It's just like, which Widowmaker is gonna shit on the other team more? Like I think it was like Zero and Joomla that he had on for one series, and it was just like Echo v Widow, and it was literally them fighting each other while the rest of the team was doing something. And then when one of them killed the other one, that team would win, because then that guy would rejoin the fight and carry for their team. So right now, I think the other reason I want that mechanic is I don't think a good Reinhardt is scary. I think he should be scary. He should be like, oh shit, that guy really knows how to play Reinhardt. We're gonna have to do something about it. So that's my suggestion. What do you guys have? Freedo, again, I know you haven't spoken in a while. Do you have any concrete ideas of like, this is what they should do to Reinhardt, this is what they should do to Winston, or maybe this is what they need to do to Roadhog to make Winston better, or something like that?
The things I had to say weren't necessarily in relation to this.
Oh, you can go on a different one if you want.
Something I'll bring up. So like you asked a poll, and we brought up the tank stats as they stand now. The thing that I want to point out is that there is a harsh selection bias in all of this. All of us talking is that it is among people who already play tank. And I would venture a guess, if people who answered your poll even queue for tank. Like, I don't know, there's a vetting process here. Like I definitely agree that Rein and Winston should be the meta. I'm just saying the things that I was trying to make points about is about like the player base as a whole. And it'll be interesting to see when this is something people are afraid of, but the priority pass system, getting DPS players in to play tank, like they're not going to learn Reinhardt in a day. Like if they've never played tank before, they probably should play the mechanical pop-off tanks anyway, because it's more similar to what they've already learned how to play. And I wonder if those stats might change a bit, because if you've played, at any point, no matter your experience, you probably play Rein at lower levels. But I would suspect those numbers might change a bit once that system gets implemented, whenever it does. But I do like your ideas. I'm a little hesitant to give hard and fast solutions, because I think you could power up those tanks to see them be more prevalent, or we could talk about powering down. I mean, Flats said it perfectly. It's like, oh, they went May, and like that's exactly what I've been saying, right? All these DPS that aren't actually scary to your squishies, but to a tank, it is like you went from carrying to I get to hold the corner now and hide like that. Like that's how Torb, May, Sombra, so many of these DPS that aren't actually like even top tier necessarily, but they slow down your tank play. And I think that's the middle rank problem. And then on a top level problem, I think the support position is just like insane in terms of how strong it is. It's almost as strong as Widow, and maybe for maybe most players, I would say maybe it is definitely. Maybe at like GM, the hit scan role is the most dominant of them all, range hit scan.
Not even close. Like Good
think
widow
so.
is GG.
Yeah.
I think like flex DPS role is basically gone, like almost gone. There's no like in high rank plays and even in scrims, it's 90% hit scan. Like even double hit scan is better than
Which
like
is weird.
the only projectile you might play are Mei and Echo, and that's it. That's it.
I feel like they're very popular in the mass player base, which is why all these stats feel kind of off, right? Because like the elephant in the room is hit scans are way better, but like the thing that I think is damaging tank play more is the DPS that have been off to the side here, like gatekeeping tanks pressing W basically, because that like we can get Rein and Winston stronger to outplay Mei, Torb, and all this other stuff that would slow them down, or we can rein them back in. I'm hesitant to make any calls on balance right now because in a few months we are going to have a new game. So what's even the point to me?
I would say
That's also true.
say this kind of sounds kind of weird, but you know how in Overwatch League there was ways to beat goats last year, right? Like there was ways on certain maps that you play a certain way and you beat goats, but teams wouldn't do it. They would just run goats v goats because it was much more efficient to practice goats than try to set up 3-4 ultimates, 3-4 fights down the line. And I think GM actually kind of does the same thing and over time, where it's just like, okay, this is just better in the long run, and everyone's good at these heroes. So why try to complicate something while everyone like moves stuff around? And I think a lot of people realize that, like, let's say in some magical fantasy world that Orion is carrying a game right now in GM.
Oh my
right?
god.
I'm pretty sure that most DPS players there understand if it was like, let's say Havana or no, let's say Hanamura, right? Most understand that after the first round, you just go Mei at the choke and it's good night. Like that's it. Like you can go Mei Widow, you could go Mei Torb. You pull out something that stops that aggression and isolates them and kills them, and you'll win, right? But the reason why you don't see it that often, and you end up seeing the Arista Sigma with not much else in the way, is because if that person goes Mei, and then the other team with the Rein goes Widow Kree or something like that, they will shit on the Mei, right? Like they will do it. They will win that battle. So instead, both sides just play more safe, right? And you don't have that ultra carry potential, right? That gets shut down. You just have enable your sniper player to beat their sniper player, and you'll win, right? Because in the end, you don't end up wanting to play that hero or practice that hero because that situation is so uncommon that you don't need it that often. Because if you're playing the DPS, you just hone your Widow skill, and you'll just beat their Widow, and you'll win your game, right? So it's like you won't even have to worry about the carry potential Rein because you killed 3 in their backline or something like that. Or it's so uncommon. You just practice your hit scan roll, and then you just kind of go from there, if that makes sense. It just becomes one of those things where I think most people know what to do. And you see it when we had that 2 weeks of rush meta. Remember those 2 weeks of rush meta? That was great. Rein Diva. Everyone just played Mei Reaper, right? It was like Mei Reaper, Rein Diva, Lucio Moira, right? For like 2 weeks, right? Because everyone knew that Reaper shreds tanks and Mei isolates tanks, right? So like people understood like what they needed to do, but you don't need to in ranked games right now because it's not worth trying to play a super aggro hero like that. Because one, you're not going to get the value, just isn't strong, and two, and if you were to get the value somehow, they just swap and you shut you down. So it's like you end up not practicing it or ever having to play it at all. So those heroes that people think like Mei that aren't strong that just got a buff. If you threw us in a Reinhardt Zarya meta with the old Mei would have dominated. But now she's even stronger. So she's just going to dominate even more,
Yeah.
And you don't see that because those DPS heroes don't get played because there isn't a tank meta that fits them right now, There's still like good Mei players you'll see on the ladder, like that really good at that hero. But, like it's why going off of the numbers just doesn't totally work all the time.
I love everything you said, Flats. That's the reason why there's so many phrases that I repeat, like don't buff heroes into metas they don't belong, and what you're describing essentially is a meta game, right? It's like the representation of a hero's strength isn't even in play because they're so easily countered, and that's why the meta compositions aren't what's strongest necessarily. It's what's left after the counter picking is done, and that's what I think a lot of people don't realize about, and why it's misguided to like look at a middling hero right now in this given slice Because as you said, if you change 2 other things over here, all of a sudden it's like, oh, maybe we shouldn't have made May reload in cryo. Now she can't be punished. Like I feel like I was the only one of the few people making content when in goats meta where I'm like, listen, buffing Reaper and May to try to deal with goats is the wrong direction. And it's like that those chickens had come on a roost for a long time. It was like a year later. And it's like, oh, maybe that was a bad idea to make really easy characters just point at things and destroy them. Right. Like it's you got to see it over a long arc. You have to have much more than short-term vision on these things or short distance or whatever word I'm trying to find.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I want
yeah.
to add a little bit because when I played in tier 2, I currently play, but it's like more me. Like in the day when I try hard a lot. As Flat said, when you played goats, you could counter goats. It was possible to counter goats, like if you want to counter it. For example, I'll give you a great example actually. Blizzard World or Icon Vault. First point defense isn't really the best for goats because goats is kind of left open, in the air. Like they're sitting on point or they're playing around point, but it's open. So if you go like a triple DPS comp and a bow or something, you can surround them and you spam them out, okay? And then second point, it might be a little bit worse for the DPS comp, but now when you enter third point, you're fucked. You can't play that DPS comp. And that's where the problem arises. That's why the teams didn't even run these comps to counter them as often, because you need to think about the future. So if you roll them the first point and then the second point, they kind of get some card time, they would just rush point. Third point, you lose the game. That's it. You can't win anymore. Even if you swap to goats, you lose the game. Why is that? Because you have to swap your entire composition. The goats team, all they need to do is stall the card and sit AFK, barely using ultimates and just wait for you to get to third point. Because now on third point, they have the ult advantage. And if you go goats, against goats, when they have 6 ults and you have 0 ults, all they have to do is press 1 ult this fight. Then next fight, they press the other ultimate. The third fight, they do the other ult. And by the time you get your ults ready, you're going to win maybe one fight, but then they're going to have ults again, then you lose the game. And that's it. That's it. That's all there is to it. That's the reason why people don't play these compositions trying to counter stuff, because you either need to be really perfect at all of these picks to really be able to force this counter composition, or the map needs to be really specific. So instead of like making your brain overheat, thinking about strategies, drawing up some fucking things on a whiteboard and like coaching and doing this and that just to counter goats, just play goats yourself. It's much easier, it's much easier. Why would you waste your time if you can just play the broken comp? As they say, like, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. It's like exactly the same thing. Why would you do anything else? Just go goats. Fuck it. Everyone's playing it.
I'd like to chime in at this point, complete the bingo card, and say that hero bans would have helped with all of this. So
Wait, you
that
didn't like hero pools?
No, not hero pools. No,
I don't think anyone did. I was just asking.
No, not pools.
Just
Bans, like physical selective bans. We've gone about this many times, so I'm not going to dwell too much on it, because anyone who watches me or Freedo ever speak will have not gone too long without someone saying, "How about some hero bans that the players select?" But this would, in some way, counter that, because if you can ban one strict counter, you know that you can then run a comp and make it work. So that's my 2 cents, but I'll let anyone else chime in on the kind of good breakdown that Bogur just gave about how and why metas sometimes exist on beyond just the strength of the heroes themselves.
Hero pools are stupid. The hero pools were stupid. Hero bans, on the other hand, are fun. Why is hero bans fun? And why are hero pools stupid? The reason why hero pools were stupid is because Blizzard would either do it randomly by throwing a dice, which is idiotic, or
a cat.
They would, or a cat, or they would look at statistics. And I will say it again: statistics don't mean shit in this game. Okay. So, for example, you know what would happen right now if hero pools were a thing? They would look at the top picks, and you know which is the top pick? Reinhardt and Zarya. They would ban Rein and Zarya. That's why it's so stupid. Now that like lower ranks are playing Rein Zarya, now they're gonna be forced to release Sigma, and now everyone gets to share the fun. That's why it's so stupid. But
yeah, we haven't seen any competitive play to move it down yet. Like people come in my stream all the time and go, "Futz, why are you on Orisa? Are you throwing?" And I'm like,
yeah.
Like what? Like what do you mean? Like I'm winning this game because of this pick. What are you talking about? You know?
Yeah.
Like anything that gives players control is always a good. Like in their own game, players should have control in their own game. Like you shouldn't always be forced to pick for something for the hell of it.
Yeah. And hero bans are really fun because now you add this mental game into tournaments and team play. You add this mental game where you as a team can practice a comp. You can go for your strengths. You know, you have a great Pharah player, you have a great Winston player, you ban something that counters these picks. You ban some hitscan characters, you ban like Diva or something, you know, and now you can play into your strengths. You know, now you can be like, oh my god, now we win the game, or we don't win because now the enemy team are gonna ban Winston or something else, and now you're forced to do something else, and it adds a lot of layers, which makes the game way more fun, dynamic, diverse, and interesting. You know, but when you just do it like they did in Overwatch League, because I know a lot of players that played in Overwatch League and currently playing in Tier 2, especially during that meta, it was terrible for them because these players, they would play one comp, scrim it for a week, even less, and then after a day, it would be a completely different meta, and they wouldn't have a say in it. And they don't know what it would be. They didn't know what it would be. They couldn't practice before that. So now they need to learn a completely new meta in 2 or 3 days. And it wouldn't go down to like team play and coordination and preparation and strategy and whatever. It would boil down just to pure mechanics. If they ban Reinhardt, Diva, and your team, or Rein Zarya and your team was really good, had really good Rein Zarya players, really bad Winston Diva players, now you're fucked. You can't win contenders. You can't do shit. That was it. You can't win Overwatch League. You would see it in Overwatch League a lot. Bottom tier teams would win against top tier teams during that time because the top tier teams picks would just get banned, and the bottom tier teams would suddenly be like amazing, you know. And it wasn't fun. It was fun to see it happen, but at the end of the day, it wasn't that fun because there was no strategy behind it. There was nothing. Like they had like a week preparation. That was it. They didn't have any thought process behind it. They had to, and it was really stressful for the players. Not to mention like how stressful it was for the players because your entire livelihood, your entire career rests on your results, you know. And all of a sudden, you can't perform. And now for the next 2 weeks, for example, because 2 weeks in a row, the meta doesn't suit you, and now you're fucked. You know, they might bench you, they might kick you, they might do something else. You might look bad for future potential teams or whatever the fuck, because it's just like you didn't have the time to improve. You know, like if you like, some people learn faster and some people learn slower, but if you give them enough time, the people that learn slower might actually outperform the people that learn fast, you know, because they just put in more effort and time. Like you see it time and time again with teams that like British Hurricane, for example, they have been together for a year, and now currently they're winning every single time in contenders, and they've won like 4 or 5 times in a row. You know, they're undefeated. Why? Because they've been together for so long, you know. And these teams, just like a new team comes up every week, nobody can beat them. You know, they haven't been there. Like it's not sticking. And like, imagine how much more fun Overwatch League would be if the teams could choose their bans, and they would know what they want to ban, and they could outplay the enemy team's bans, and they could think about this and that, and like they layer upon layer upon layer upon. You could take risks. You know, you can have a risk reward system. I think a lot of the really fun games boil down to risk reward system, you know. And Overwatch, especially, as I said, the characters that are really fun, risk reward. The tournaments that are really fun, risk reward. Always taking risks. That's fun to watch. It's not fun to watch the same old shit over and over again. You want to see someone take a risk, yeah.
Well, I mean, what you're talking about, like what we described as a meta earlier, is the exact opposite of what you're saying now, right? You're saying risk reward should be fun, and what we described earlier was teams just play the safest they can because it's better than getting found out. So clearly, when that's the prevalence, and maybe there's something off there. Flats, Freedo, do you guys have anything to chime in on what you've heard?
I want to reminisce about how hero pools is a uniquely, it's like the type of mistake only Blizzard could make.
Yes, 100%.
And the reason why, and here's the reason why, it's because they are so great. They are so creative, these guys, these developers. I truly believe Overwatch may be the most mechanically beautiful game I've ever seen. Like in my history of playing, like we complain about the meta and it not being perfect and all this other stuff, but like if you just zoom out and think about the balance in any other game, or the diversity in any other game, or just like the playability, the fluidity, the character design, all of it, like it is such a magnificent piece of art. But when you are that type of person, this is something I've learned growing older, that it's really important to remember that you have to accept people for who they are, like incompleteness. Like the thing you hate about somebody might be the reason why they're great, right? So this is what I'm trying to say about Blizzard. Like, because they're so good, they actually thought that was a good idea. We all are like, no, that's dumb. But the thing is, you got to understand about these alpha creative types. They have to be so bold to go there to like even get us Overwatch. You know what I'm saying? So it's like they had to fail at Titan for 10 years to get us to the point of Overwatch. So I'm on board to go through the process, but I'm hoping they're able to see more clearly and like zoom out and not be so I only have negative things to say, so I'm going to end the sentence there, but not be so they really were in love with that idea, right? The benefits to hero pools in their mind was that teams could prepare for it ahead of time. It's the same reason why they like pre-select maps. But we've already seen when teams get to pick their maps in Overwatch League, infinitely better gameplay. Everything Bogur was talking about with like, oh, maybe they have a strat that they like that they could run. It's like, oh my goodness, like right. That's what we want. Mm-hmm. And I sincerely hope that the team aspect of Overwatch in Overwatch League, as well as in the tournament system, I am going to be upset if we don't have. I expect it at this point. Over the course of a series as well. Like, I don't know if it. The reason why they have been hesitant before is because it's not intuitive for ranked play, and it doesn't necessarily fix anything an average player cares about. Okay, fine, but the team play thing is still a point. Like, everything we believe about it is true. So divide these up. Okay, let's have respect for the team play aspect, and being able to even as simple as one ban per map loss for the loser just fixes so many things that is wrong with the game. We can't run a counter comp because we'll lose on third. Like, I feel like you can't even talk about that because we already have so many problems down the line, right? Like, we got to deal with that sort of thing first, and then we can move on, and the game will be so much better when that happens. I think, like, it'll be much harder for sure, because it's much easier to figure out a simple meta and just refine it. That is a concern. Like, if especially on a pro level, the same problems of a random hero pool will affect a team when the enemy team bans something that surprises you, and all of a sudden they're playing a comp you didn't expect. And like I said, there will be blowouts. But the point is, there's the risk reward factor of it, where it's like, you should have planned for that. Also, then the next map, you bring your strat. And we sort of saw that when the tournaments had loser picks a map. Similar things happen. Like, it was very common for the picking team to be strong, if not win their map. It's pretty rare that they look lost. Like, sometimes they would. And in some series, I'm trying to remember. I don't have any stats, the magical stats to back up my argument.
If you did, maybe Blizzard would listen.
Right. Win or lose, they got to run the comps they wanted to run, right? Like in the Tracer metas, Florida ran a lot of Tracer. Maybe Shock likes to run more Zen, right? Whatever. That's the beauty of the game to me, anyway. We're preaching to the choir at this point, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, that was honestly quite a beautiful explanation there, and I agree. I think Blizzard like to find like the left field solution to problems, right? They don't like to, like, because we'll whine about something for a couple of weeks, and we'll just be like, just do this, please God, just do this, and Blizzard be like, okay, but what if we made Amp Matrix wider? And it's like, maybe that would help, because they heard the cinema industry was struggling, so they were like, well, here's an IMAX in game for you. This might help.
I have a question.
Oh, okay, yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Bogur. Go ahead. I was going to point it to Flans.
Yeah, I know. I want to do a short question. Like, do you think like hero bans could work in line, just like in League of Legends or Dota, for example, and maybe not as many bans, but like 1 or 2 bans, like especially in higher level tier, maybe 2 separate queues, like hero ban queue and non-hero ban queue, for example. So you get into a team, and then I know how they would detect one person, or everyone would vote for a ban, and then you would ban this hero, and then the game would be like, for example, you don't like Orisa and Sigma. You ban Orisa Sigma. Now it's going to be Rein Zara. It's going to be Winston Diva, depending on the map and stuff like that. Do you think it could work?
Player-based
maybe
provided,
if it was
yes.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, Freedo.
I didn't mean to speak over you. I think I was going to say that as well. Splitting queues increases queue times. That we already know.
Yeah.
Like you could have a great experience on this website, and then it's like, oh, I have to wait a day, and so that is an issue. I would imagine if it was like gated at GM or something, if no one would care. But I'm more of a fan of the like series-based tournament system having it and ranked not, because the Sigma on the cart. I apologize to this guy. He probably has a name and is known somewhere. He was on Flat.
He's human.
You're my example today of the guy not using the high ground, the best high ground in the game, and you're not using. Okay, sorry. That
I
guy.
yelled at him, so go for it, dude. I don't yell at anyone in ranked anymore. I actually legitimately yelled at him. I felt, I don't feel bad actually. Never mind.
But those types of players are so many players. Like there's so many players that just want to cut off a little bit of the game and enjoy it and see where they get. And even when they get up to Masters, it's just they have the same mentality as the plat player who plays Genji. They just happened to get to Masters. Do you know what I mean? It's like the mentality is more so that, and most players play the game that way. And in fact, the more I look around, I think players play most games that way. Like to some degree, I want to be like, well, this is ranked, you got to take it serious, but we don't have enough serious players other than for like, a time-based tournament thing. But like if I play Smash Brothers, I don't learn the meta of Smash Brothers. I just play the character I like or I'm good at, right? Like players need to be able to interact with the game that way, which is why adding these levels of complexity onto it Blizzard's been so hesitant, because it's like, well, what's the point? Like people just want to play their Genji and Plat and live their life, right? Like, and if you have this ban system that's intended to stop the meta, well, we've already gone at great length to say 3,800 and down, there is no meta. Like you're barely even approaching the meta because you don't even know how to play yet. So that's my hesitancy. I used to be for it for all ranks, but as time has gone on, I'm like, what's even the point? What is it achieving for them necessarily?
To your point on that,
lengthening the time that it takes for them to queue or before you get into the match. They just want to get in and start shooting stuff.
Mm-hmm. To your point on that too, like I know, like I'm at least what I think is a big hesitant of it is like, you have like one trick streamers and stuff, like they would probably get targeted and harassed quite a bit for like whatever their pick was, right? Like let's say they're only a Lucio player, right? And you see like someone load up in your game, right? And it's like, oh hey, look who it is on the other team, let's just ban Lucio and they're going to be basically useless, right? And that'd be kind of like targeted towards them. So like that's why I kind of got like not doing it. But I also think that you should look, and if anyone here has never looked at it at all, I encourage you to take a look at Rainbow Six Siege. So Rainbow Six Siege came out about 6 months before Overwatch did. Much smaller. It was, a tiny game. I actually was a console pro for a year when they had a console pro league. And there was a lot of issues with the game. People like really enjoyed it. Like it's evolved now to a point where I don't really enjoy it anymore, but it's grown exponentially since its release. I remember when the game first came out, the first like 2 sets of DLC characters threw the game like into Brig levels of hell. And I was the Brig player. There was a operator called Blackbeard. So Blackbeard had a scar that did 49 damage per shot. Now you have 100 health. So 2 to 3 shots to kill him on the chest, 1 shot headshot. And he had a giant shield that went over the top of his gun, and you'd put it on, and it had enough health. So at first, it didn't tell you how much health you had. It took 31 bullets of Jaeger, who was the strongest operator's gun, his whole clip of hitting it to break it. 31 bullets. So no one would ever break it, right? And now the key of it is you couldn't get headshot, right? So you could peek angles and you'd never get punished for it, right? And then they nerfed it a little bit and they made it 800 health. 800 health is still an extremely large number of bullets it would take, right? And they did that progressively, and it still dominated, right? It was still really strong. And so as the game kind of progressed and they just kept nerfing it, and new operators came out and stuff like that, and new maps, they made sure that they kept their ear to the ground on things that were like not really like working, or things that were too strong. And then it got to the point where the game was so complex, because The game was originally just like a breach and clear game. You know, it was basically gun skill versus gun skill with a few, you know, weird like breaching tools and stuff like that to throw the game off, to much more of like you can throw your own cameras, to hacking devices, to like hiding electrical fields that like hacked a drone when it went by. Like, you know, it made the game much more 3D. And once it got to that point, they said, okay, we don't understand the high level meta anymore as like a development team. And they implemented operator bans, one attack, one defense for each team. And so what that did was there was an operator called I'm getting it confused. I want to call it Echo, but it's not Echo because it was a drone that stuck to the ceiling and it shot out like sonic waves and it would disorient you, right? And it would basically stun lock you. And it was the most broken ability in the game. So everyone just banned it constantly. Casuals didn't like playing against it or with it, and pros hated it too until they just nerfed it down, right? And so it was kind of there, like stepping and be like, hey, the game's getting to a point now where we don't totally get it. And that game has grown exponentially now. Like its professional scene does comparably well to Overwatch League now, you know, and it's gone from the bottom and grown its way up where I feel like we went from the top and have kind of worked our way down in a lot of areas. Now I understand that a game like Siege is very different, where if you ban an operator, it's not like you banned Mercy or Zen or something. Like you have a completely different play style. You just have a different gun and a different, you know, set of tools. But at some level, though, we kind of have to look at it and be like, listen, maybe the game has gotten to a point of complexity where we need to have something that balances it. Now, that's why I kind of look at the whole main tank argument and be like, is it really that bad if main tanks are stronger? Like, right, like Winston and Rein are strong picks, right? Because let's say if a team doesn't pick Rein at all, they should be getting punished for it because they just don't have a shield, right? Or if they have, let's say, Orisa Sigma, they should have to be playing that absolutely perfectly to kind of like keep them away. They shouldn't just have to mindlessly just shoot it and it'll break, right? And the question is like, how do you get to that point? And I think part of it is realistically there needs to be a punishment system where like if you're not picking a hero like that, where it's very much a staple of the game or very much you know, a needed hero that everyone kind of enjoys, the game is going to get thrown in disarray. Like, remember, everyone used to say that having a good D.Va player was also like almost like having a good main tank. Like, if you had a good D.Va player, like you were set because, you know, it was like the best job security role, right? If you're a good D.Va player, you could get on any owl team in the world, you know, like anyone would take you. But D.Va fell out of meta, and we kind of just went into this weird state where, like, you know, it's just shields that are in the way, and you know, I think at this point, I think we need to take a second look at the philosophy behind it, whether we want to go hero bans or whether we want to be like, this is the way Overwatch is played, and go from there. You kind of get what I mean? It's kind of like this is how it's a staple of it. These tanks are how the game is moved. It should at least be somewhat like a staple of some sort. I don't really know how like to explain it without saying like it needs to be stronger. But I think it should be just seriously like taken and looked at as like, this is how Overwatch has always been played. We're kind of getting into devolved, no comms, just chaos and staying together and playing these weird off role or off flank heroes because they just get more value. And whether do we want more team play aspect or a much more solo queue aspect? So
I think I can sum up what you're saying, Flats. I think I can sum up. I think I can help you, buddy. I think what Flats is saying, using his example of like in Rainbow Six, they had a certain play style, but eventually when they balanced the characters in a certain way, and the devs realized we can't balance this anymore, so they gave it to the hands of the players. You do it. Take the operator bans. And what you're saying is either the devs need to figure out that we think Rein and Winston are the way to play, so they should be strong, and if you don't play them, well, you're going to be punished, or they need to hand it over to us and say, you figure it out, and you tell us if Rein or Winston should be banned or not. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's a pretty good way of putting it. Or like, you know, you're putting your team at a severe disadvantage at that point by not picking it. I mean, like, if you have Poco on D.Va and 6 on Hog and you want to run D.Va Hog, hey, go for it. You know what I mean? Those two exceptional players that I see on ladder all the time that that play those roles. They want to do it. Maybe they'll pop off for it, but like you shouldn't be punished for playing what, in my opinion, at this point, is staple heroes of the game. That, and you know what? And that if you watch if you're sitting there at home and you're like, oh, that's just kind of a weird like biased take. If you watched the first version of this, I think I was very fair with like, okay, like you could use a little buff here, a little nerf here. I don't see it happening anymore. I just don't see it happening. I feel like we've gotten to the point where like even with this Brig nerf, like people are going to be kind of happy with the Brig nerf, and maybe BAP will get nerfed again, but then we're going to go right back to Hog Sigma, Hog Ball, and Ball Zarya and Hog Zarya. Like main tank is dead right now, and it's going to stay dead unless something drastic really happens, at least in competitive play.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think what I'd say to that, what I'd say that is basically either Blizzard decides what is fun, i.e. like, well, okay, well, Blizzard decides what the meta is, right? And by default, at least a lot of us, if not all, Flats might have dropped accidentally. Give us a sec, guys. Flats is like gave his speech and he's peace out. No, like, so either Blizzard are like, this is the meta and therefore you better have fun playing it, or they let us handle it and they say, okay, well, you decide what the meta is, you decide what the fun is, right? Because that's what a ban system would be, where you'd be like, well, we don't think Orisa's fun anymore, so we're off with her, or we don't think Brig is fun anymore, so we're off with her. Whereas right now it's Blizzard's job to decide, because they'll be like, you know what, Brig is actually ruining too many games, we should maybe tune her down. And if they don't, then we're stuck and we're just like twiddling our thumbs, like sure hope that, that's literally what all Overwatch Twitter has been for the last month, 2 months. It's just like Samito rant videos being like, I fucking hate this game, I'm going over to Fortnite. And Flats, you played Fortnite, right? Like you were out there streaming.
Me, Matman, J3,
exactly.
And Saul, we dominated, dude, and 5-0.
So that's literally what it is though, right? It's like either we twiddle our thumbs and wait, go play another game, or Blizzard do something, right? So that's like, and that's not really, I don't think that's really healthy. Like you should be in a state where your players can decide, like, actually, yeah, we don't like Doomfist anymore. Let's just everybody ban him. And again, I just want to quickly address a few like arguments against like bans, because there's many ways to implement it. Like against streamers, like it can be anonymous, so you can't necessarily target someone based on who they are. It can just be based on the meta. And also across the rank thing, I think different ranks will ban different stuff. There is an argument to be made that, let's say in gold, people don't care about meta. They just want to play their hero and they don't want to have it banned. But again, we go back to that argument of like, well, what is comp? Should you be catered to if you're playing comp and you only want to play Doomfist? Like, well, no, then you should be banned, and that's fair. Go play quick play if you just want to role play your character, right? Like, so what is comp? Is it? So there's these questions. I think there's ways around all of it. It just depends again on what the philosophy is. I'm for it. And I don't think we should separate by SR, because I think that players should play the game that the best players are playing and try to emulate it. I don't think they should be like kept away. I know a lot of people don't like it, but that's my personal opinion. I think Bogur's statement about like it could be a different mode, I'm okay with that. Like let unban Overwatch be like open queue is now, where it's like something people can play if they want to and they like it, and ban Overwatch is the hardcore Overwatch. But Bogur, what do you think about what Flat said?
I think personally, specifically about what you said, I think League has a great system about bans, where you can like, obviously you can't have every player ban someone, but what's really cool is that you don't get to see who is on the enemy team. You don't get to see. You queue into a rank game, a draft pick, you don't get to see who's on the enemy team. You might queue up into a Draven one trick. You don't know that, so you won't ban Draven, you won't ban that character. So what if in Overwatch the same exact thing happens? I queue up into Overwatch, we get into a game, there's gonna be like a 5 to 10 minute phase where, okay, we're about to ban something and we need to choose, what do we want to ban, what do we want to play? Okay, we have a really good Hawk player, or a really good whatever player, or Rein player, so we want to ban a character that has a lot of CC, for example Mei. Imagine if it's a close quarter map, for example King's Row, you ban Mei, you pick your Reinhardt pick, easy, like go fucking roll them, whatever, row and smoke these kids. But like that's why I think another argument about bans is it's gonna split the player base, and I understand that, but we need to realize that if we make the game more fun, if we start making the game like fixing stuff, people are gonna come back to the game, and the player base is gonna increase. Like if you start fixing issues, it's slowly gonna grow. You know, especially with Overwatch 2. I can guarantee you for sure that when Overwatch 2 comes out, you're gonna have a lot more players all of a sudden, at least for the first month or two. And if these people that come back realize that the game is the same state as it was before, nothing really changed, they will leave again. Yeah, they will just leave again, and we're gonna be stuck again, like right here. So I think fixing the issues right now, releasing Overwatch 2, getting the big surge of new players and old players alike, and then making them stay is really more important than just, oh no, we can't do that because it's too risky. We're gonna separate it. But the queues are already shit. Fuck it, fuck it. The queues are already shit. Who cares? Queues are absolutely terrible. I would never forget, especially when they released the row queue. I would queue with the Fran and Kabaji. I would literally play through entire games while we waited for queue. It was 2 hours queue every single game. I would play 3 games a stream. It was a wild 4 games with the Fran for a 6-hour stream, 4 games combined. I was like, what the fuck is this shit? Queues are already shit. Might as well just allow the people to have some fun. Fuck it. I don't think open queue made the queues worse. It feels exactly the same. It feels exactly the same. Open queue doesn't. The fact that they added open queue doesn't make me feel that like the queues before that were any shorter or longer. It's just exactly the same shit. And another thing I think is really important, and I keep bringing it up because I think it's really important about every game. Games revolve around them being fun. And as I said before, the risk reward system is really important. And the fact that it lacks in so many new characters creates such a big it creates such a big difference between the original cast of the Overwatch characters and the new cast, that they were added. The new cast don't have this risk reward system most of the time. And because they don't have it, these characters are not as fun as the original cast. There's so many more lovers of Anna, Zen, Winston, Reinhardt, Diva, all of these characters, because they just are fun to play. I can never imagine a game where somebody complained that Winston is broken. I've never seen a game like that. I've never heard someone say Winston is broken, dude. I don't like playing against Winston. Never. It has never happened. I've never heard anyone say Reinhardt is busted. Nerf Reinhardt. It's not fun to play against Reinhardt, Fuck that character, I've never heard anyone say Ana is broken. Nerf Ana. It doesn't happen. If it happens just by some gold player that doesn't understand anything, just fucking ranting, you should listen to these people. It's the vocal minority, the people that complain. Do you need to listen to them? No, you don't. You don't need to listen to them, because if you start listening to these people, you're suddenly gonna make your game worse. Just because these 10 people enjoy this character doesn't mean you should nerf it. And what if we tried changing a bit these characters? What if we tried to change up these tanks like Kurisa and Sigma? What if we added a risk reward system to them? I don't know, something for Risa that makes her her ability a lot more risky but a lot more rewarding. But that'll be fun. I know anything, nothing comes up. Maybe something comes up for you, but imagine if that would happen. I would have fun playing Risa. Some people, I also think that some people misinterpret stuff. They say we should really hardcore buff Winston and Reinhardt. Yeah, we should buff Winston and Reinhardt, but we need to be careful. We weren't careful before, and look what happened. I'm sure that the reason behind these specific metas getting really boring and stale is because you're just forced to play them all the time. Goats wasn't necessarily a bad composition or a bad meta. We just forced to play it for a year. It's boring, it gets stale. So you need to be careful when buffing stuff, and you need to be careful when nerfing stuff. It's just you need to, yeah.
No, sorry, I was just gonna chime in because I would be doing a disservice. While I personally agree with you, I would also be doing a disservice not to say that we might be considered the vocal minority as content creators and top % players. If your perspective is the most number of people should have the most fun, in which case, which could be Blizzard's perspective of well, we just want players in gold to have fun, right?
Yeah.
So that's just one thing I want to chime in with.
I was going to add in on this as well.
Yeah.
The thing to remember with the gap, and this is why I keep bringing this up, only players of your skill feel the need to be forced to play anything. Like
Okay.
everyone else plays what they want, or play the magical meta that you think is fun. They largely see the game like that anyway. Like people are normally playing those things, even though we would all agree that Rein's like really weak. In plat and below, they think if you don't have a Rein, you're throwing. They think he's like a must pick, right? So like it's
So would they care
tricky
if he got
to.
buffed then? Like at that point, you know, because they're playing him anyways.
Yeah.
I also
Well,
don't think
well,
that's
yeah, I'm
necessarily
talking about like bans
100%
and stuff.
true.
Okay.
I'm talking about like mixing up the meta and the concerns about the meta. You know, that's my point.
Well, two things to that. Firstly, I'm not sure that's necessarily true. I think they're playing Ryan, but I do think there is a meta. Having played a lot of time and spoken to a lot of people who are like in plat and gold, there is like double off tank is the meta, not necessarily in that. See, the terms start to have different meanings in different ranks. Like I don't think meta in gold means you have to play or you lose. The meta is everyone's playing Hog Zarya, or like a lot of people are playing Hog Zarya or Hog Sigma or whatever. Of course, Ryan we still saw had really high pick rate, but I think that's like he's also getting shit on a lot, and it's also unrewarding to play him compared to some other heroes. And also, I think similar argument bans have a different purpose. They're not there to change the meta in gold. They're there to stop them from whining about how Doomfist is broken. So rather than nerf Doomfist, who's not necessarily needed, because nobody in Overwatch League cares if you play Doomfist, but you know now you can ban him in gold and everybody's happy. So that's my arguments. I know we can end up with for quite a while, but I'm conscious. Okay, Bogur, you go this thingy, and then I'm gonna start heading to concluding thoughts.
Okay, so you're saying, like we're the vocal minority. It's not like a theory that we are the vocal minority. We are the vocal minority, and that's true. That's 100% true. We are the minority. It's like less than 1% of us, the like above 4.3, above 4.4. And all of the stuff you hear on Twitter and on social media, it's us talking about it. You don't hear the lower ranked people talk about it because they just aren't as popular, It's like an echo chamber where we just talk, like we keep, like Samito keeps trashing Brigitte, for a reason, obviously, but people might not necessarily feel like that's the issue. But I can guarantee you that nobody is really gonna not enjoy having a buff or two on Reinhardt. I can guarantee you that if you make, like, I know there is no meta in particular in below GM and stuff. There's just a lot of random shit, and there's double off tank, and people just play whatever, and sometimes play Rein Saga, and everyone plays whatever. But at the same time, if you kind of balance it out in a smart way, like you give a little bit of love to Winston, a little bit of love to Reinhardt, maybe a little bit of a nerf for these characters that are really strong in high SR. People in lower SR, I don't think they're gonna complain necessarily. I know, just because. Okay, another really important thing is we being the vocal minority is really important as well. We create the content. Okay, we create the content. Overwatch League creates the content, Contenders creates the content. We are what people see, Like when people are not playing the game, it's us who they see. It's us they come up to. And if my games are shit and I'm complaining about the game all the time, and I'm always trashing Blizzard, and I'm always trashing the game, and I keep telling people I don't enjoy this game or something like that, or Overwatch League players keep quitting, it's not a good vision for Overwatch. It's not something people want to see, because we set the tone for the game. We set the tone for what people see. When you think about casuals, they don't see this. Maybe they don't watch our streams, or maybe they don't watch our our content and stuff. But it's really important for the hundreds of thousands of people that do, for them to see us having fun. Because if we're having fun, they're going to be more inclined to play the game. If they're more inclined to play the game, they're going to be more inclined to bring their friends to play the game as well. We are the vocal minority, but we're a really important vocal minority. We're extremely important for the health of the game. I am going way back to what I said. The hardcore community is the most important part of every game. Why did Rainbow Six Siege grow exponentially? Because the hardcore community that loves this game has been cared for, and it's the strong base that is being built upon. They're always going to be there, and the other players are going to stack up on top of that. But once you break that core and people start leaving, why would the casual player stay? Like, they look at, like, for example, I think a great example is Fall Guys, for example. all the streamers played Fall Guys and everyone talked about Fall Guys. But now that nobody is playing Fall Guys, nobody talks about Fall Guys, nobody does anything with Fall Guys, it's dropping down in popularity because the vocal minority that are the streamers and that are the content creators are no longer speaking about it, or no longer loving the game. And if they don't love the game, I'll be honest, the casual community won't love it either. It's clearly important for us as the vocal community in every game, in every scenario, to be satisfied with the game, you know? It's clearly important. It's the most important of every game. And once we are satisfied and we start spitting out like good stuff, we start creating more content, because now there's not a content route, there's more stuff to create. There's gonna be more YouTube videos, there's gonna be more Twitch streams, there's gonna be more like Tim the Tatman, Seago returning, XQC, like now always going to be on top of the Twitch section because all of these famous streamers are now playing because the game is fun again. And now there's going to be a huge surge of casual players, and they're going to play the game, and they can still play whatever the fuck they want. You know, it's still the same for them, but they're going to come in and play the game. They're going to be like, damn, I'm going to have some fun today. Yes, sir. But as I said, if nobody streams it and the only streamers that stream it, you click on them and they're fucking depressed and don't want to play it and go play Fortnite instead, you know, shit like that. It's not a good vision. These people are no longer excited to play the game. These people are gonna be like, okay, I'll play Fortnite instead. My favorite streamer is playing Fortnite. I'm gonna play Fortnite. Why would I play Overwatch? Yeah.
And also in many ways, you are representative. You're not necessarily like an elected official or like an MP, but your followers, for example, Bogur, you know, they believe in you and they agree with what you're saying largely, or they at least think that what you're saying is sense and your opinion is worthwhile. So you have how many ever people are in your community saying, yeah, okay, well, we think Bogur talks sense, right? So yeah, there's a difference in the vocal minority that content creators represent compared to someone on the Blizzard forums who's like, who the fuck vouched for this guy? Like there's hundreds or thousands in some cases people saying, I actually think that, you know, Flats generally talks sense and we should listen to his opinion because I follow his streams and I think he's, you know, I think he's a good player. So I you know, there's a definite fair and valid argument to what you're saying, but I do recognize that I've been keeping you guys for quite long, so I do want to start shifting towards concluding thoughts. Before I do, Flats, Freedo, do you guys have anything that you want to add to anything that's been said before I kind of ask for your concluding thoughts?
Yeah, there's something I remembered I wanted to include to try to touch base with a conversation we basically began with the first great tank debate. And I don't know if I necessarily have the answer to this, but Flats gave his opinion already, which is he thinks that main tank should be biased. And I wonder if we will find ourselves in a different state where, or if it's the goal of Blizzard, I should say, that each tank is like equally viable and you don't need a main tank necessarily. I think, as I've explained earlier in the podcast, it used to be very punishing to not have a main shield to block Shatter, but if Shatter's weaker, then that doesn't apply as harshly. I almost wonder if that type of thing is intentional by Blizzard to try to improve the tank role so that it's not just like, I think there are some players that are turned off by the tank role by the perception of having to play a main tank. Now we can debate and say, well, that's not actually true, not even in this meta and maybe in future, but I for better or for worse, I think Blizzard's trying to diminish the separation between off tank, main tank being a necessary thing. I wonder when more team play and maybe the balance of like BAP and Brig is a bit better, if we would even see main tanks get played more, regardless of the balance of the tank role itself. So it's more of a food for thought thing. Like, I don't hate the balance state now, but at the same time, I also quit playing tank because I'm not good at the tanks you have to play in order to pop off. Like I'm just, the mechanics you have to do are nuts. Like compared to support feels like a walk in the park compared to being in the paint. Like it's like you're Dennis Rodman in there. Like you got to be physical and just with your Zarya or Sigma, like you can't miss. If you miss, it's like, oh, you're not going to get that kill. Whereas as Ana, like I can use my brain to get in position, get an angle, boom, big ability, we win. Like it's so much less stressful. So I'm a bit, I stand on both sides of the fence of it. Like I individually want to play Rein and Winston. That's what I've born and bred on, studied Owl Pros on that, try to improve that aspect of my gameplay, to be a shot caller, to be the leader of the team, to take the L's and get the hits. But I don't know if everyone's view of the tank role, they want the same things necessarily. That's sort of my argument, and I think we'll see as Blizzard continues down this path, and for all we know, more things are going to be different in Overwatch 2 than we could dream of. Like everything we just said today may all be a moot point because like, oh, there's no shields in Overwatch 2 or something crazy, right? Like who knows what they've got planned, but I try to watch the direction, and I feel like a lot of this was intentional to make it feel like you can play a solo sufficient style in ranked. And I think when we have 2 queues, when we have weekend tournaments, we all can get together, we can do our 6 stack of all tank players filling in all the different roles, right? Or then we can run our own style and run our own. Like I think that we should talk about it then, rather than ranked is such a mess. Like I disrespect ranked so much that I fear to like try to design the whole game around how trash ranked is. See, that's my point. I feel like it's a cart before the horse type thing.
No, I understand. I also been having that sneaking suspicion that Blizzard are looking at actually how to just kill the main tank role altogether, because the last several changes have never like tried to address like how to actually make the role more popular. They've always been, how do we just get more people into the tank role? Well, let's just make off tanks better so that more people, because we know people like playing off tanks, so people will want to play off tanks more. And that is my sneaking suspicion that that's maybe the direction they're heading. But from my perception, and again, this is completely anecdotal, I can't speak in any objective way, I think most people like having a Rein or a main tank on their team. They just don't want to be the person playing it. And that, to me, speaks to the problem that the character itself isn't rewarding to play, but everybody wants you to play it so that they can have a better time. So maybe we should be in a place where that character also has a fun time, so everybody else has a fun time, and then the game is fun. But that's my 2 cents. Flats, again, anything you want to chime in on what we said before I head to conclusion?
Well, you almost just made Bogur cry, it looks like.
Yeah, I was thinking about becoming a Turbo TP and like kill main. Like I literally just play. I have fun playing Turbo. It's fun. I'm gonna cosplay him. I'm gonna like the beach skin. Yeah, cosplay the Torp beach skin and play Turbo. Then fuck it, I'm gonna have fun at least. Like if you kill my role, I'm gonna fucking go wild in your ranked games. Nobody can stop me now.
Here's my opinion. My biased opinion is killing off main tanks kills off the feel of Overwatch. It becomes high HP, objective based Call of Duty in a lot of ways. Now, listen.
Yeah.
If you have, let's say, where you have like no shields, let's say no shields anymore, right? And everyone's playing the hog ball Zarya's types, right? You're basically, from my experience in Hog Zarya meta, you know what Hog Zarya meta was? It was 2 things. 1, waiting to see whose hit scan shot the other hit scan's head off first. And 2, whose hog hit the first hook, / what Zarya bubbled the hog to not get hooked first, / did your hog get hooked, survive, counter hook, your Ana threw an anti-nade and he exploded. Like it was the most boring meta of all time if you were the Zarya player. I actually got bored playing Zarya during that meta, and I used to accidentally bubble once in a while. And I remember I got called out on it because me and Emon were playing, and he goes, "Dude, stop board bubbling me." I was like, "What?" He's like, "Dude, you haven't done anything for 2 minutes, so then you just bubble me." And I'm like, "Yeah." he's like, "Did I die?" And I'm like, "Yeah, whoops," because he wouldn't get hooked. Like he was always winning the hook battle. So I just sat there and just was like, okay, I'll wait till something happens. And I sat there basically 20 charge, just waiting, because if I bubbled myself, that would put myself in a huge risk, depending on what map we were, to get 1 tapped, because we were running, it was like Mercy Zen or I think we were running Mercy Zen. Both teams were always running Mercy Zen. So Mercy would be damage boosting either the Ashe or the Widow. If you got headshot by a damage boosted Widow, good night. You just fell over, right? But at least if it wasn't damage boosted, you had a chance to get back in cover if you made a small little mistake or something like that. But it was basically sitting there waiting to see whose Widow shot the other person off, right? So here's where we're at. You get a meta or you get a game where main tank is dead, right? The only thing standing left in the way is Ball. Ball is the only left main tank, which will then
Last
get destroyed.
survivor.
Ball will get destroyed after that. Like as like people were like nerf ball, blah 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 blah. You nerf Ball, which I'm not a big fan of Ball, to be honest. I'm just not good at it. But like I think that other stuff should be more viable. And then you have a game where it's just whose DPS is better until you nerf all the snipers. And I don't see the snipers ever getting nerfed. Main tank is what kept all the snipers in check. Because if you had an aggressive Widow that played frontline or played like pretty close and was looking to just pick people off, your Winston would jumper, or you took the hard corner with Rein and you sped over to their team before they could get stuff done. You don't have that unless you have double shield now, where you have double shield where you just throw the Sigma shield in front of it. And shields aren't really that strong anymore. Like even in double shield, the shields aren't even that strong. It's more of the Baptiste and the Brig that keep everything alive. So then you just have the immortality field, right? But meanwhile, that whole time, those shields got you space, got you to pressure the Widow out, or let your Widow take the peak, right? And it was able to take the aggressive positioning, or your BAP or your Orisa is like just pelting her a little bit, just enough to kind of get her like, you know, a little bit nervous and maybe like drop the angle or move. But it was enough to buy you time. You won't have that anymore. You will literally have who has the better sniper battle, and we already kind of have that in a lot of ways. So you removed the main tank role. You removed the counterbalance between high-powered sniper in the rest of the character pool, because nothing will compete with a Widow / damage boosted Ashe. That is insane. There will be no tanks that can get there except Ball. Like I said, the supports, you'll have Brig, I guess, but like we're already trying to nerf Brig into the ground. She's her own different issue. You have BAP with his immortality field and / his left click is pretty decent. Like, but like, are you really like, let's say like even an Ana, you're gonna take a battle with a Widow on Ana? Like really? Like you got some serious balls, you know? You become reliant on your DPS to beat theirs. Who wants to queue up and roll the dice on whether you got the better Widow player? Because that ain't fun. And I'll tell you right now, in my games, I'm already not having fun, because if I queue up and I'm a high SR and I'm duo with someone who's high SR, you go up against the contenders alt account duo queue on the other team, and they're running Echo Widow, and they are just fucking you, and it's not a good time. So you talk about removing shield, you talk about removing main tank, you remove the counterbalance that removes those extremely good sniper players that ruin your games. Unless you're that sniper player, then well, I guess have fun.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
that's why it's a terrible idea.
So I'm gonna lead that into then my concluding question is, what do we do then? Do we change something about the game, or do we wait? Because I sense Freedo's of the perspective of rather than twist, let's stick. Let's just like wait to see what happens when Overwatch 2 comes out, and then we'll see if we're gonna change. Maybe I'm wrong, Freedo. Please correct me when I come to you.
I don't even know what that phrase means.
You know, stick or twist, like in blackjack, right? When you want to, instead of like when you hit me, you get another card, or you stick where you say, no, I'm good with the cards I have.
Oh, okay.
So I feel like
I didn't know the lingo. I'm not a degenerate gambler. No.
Whoa.
So yeah, I mean, that's what I would say is like, I feel like that's your perspective. So that's my question to you first, Flats. Do we change or do we wait? And if we change, what do we change? Like, give me like one thing that you really like. Yeah, let's do this for now.
I'm gonna make this very clear. Waiting would be the worst thing you could ever do, unless in some miracle world they've already seen the future. They've already visited it with their time machine. I don't know if Activision has one for Call of Duty. Went there, figured out there was some good magic meta, and has it implemented for Overwatch 2. The chances of that are about 0, where they think like they could say like, oh, like we're gonna make all these changes and it's gonna feel great. Unless we roll in with those changes and then add the new heroes, there's no way it goes well. There's none. 0. None.
So what do you want them to do?
Overwatch 2, if we roll in Overwatch 2 and there's double shield still, I don't even know. I would shudder to think about what happens. So what do we do to answer your question? Here's the things I would talk about. Snipers are very strong with hit scan, but the snipers are very strong because shields aren't as prevalent anymore, and that's not the answer. We don't bring back shields, or at least not like that. So what do we do? I think some of the options are you nerf Brig again, or you buff Lucio. Buffing Lucio enables a lot of those original heroes. Rein, Zarya, D.Va, all kind of required speed, right? I'm saying D.Va because even though D.Va could follow Winston around, like as if with a dive, you didn't want to use that cooldown really until it's like secure kills, because you'd always kind of go off on the angles with D.Va or like follow your main tank around. So the speed was always very, very helpful. A lot of the original heroes of Overwatch required or enabled speed in some sort. Lucio is terrible. He is a worse version of Brig. He does less healing. His ultimate's worse. He doesn't have the CC stun like Brig does, because Brig has the whip shot, which in my mind is like Boop. Boop and whip shot are very similar. Yes, Boop can get more people, but in high level,
Whip shot's better.
You're not getting it that often anyways. And the Brig one is much longer. You know what I mean? It's further range. And the best part of that is Lucio gets almost zero ult charge off of those boops half the time. He gets nothing. And he doesn't generate ult charge for speeding his teammates. So when you're speeding as opposed to healing, you get ult charge for healing, but Lucio cannot keep up with a Zen or a Brig in generating his ults for tank ults, because he is using his speed to keep up with other teammates, right? While they are constantly healing and doing damage. So in my mind, some kind of buff to Lucio that either raises how fast he charges ult, raises how much he charges ult, raises how much he gets for damage, for doing damage to like with left clicks, boops, etc., or you buff his speed a little bit more. Is it 30% or 40% now, or is it 35? It might be 35. And so try buffing it, because I think at one point it was 40. Maybe we buff it to 40, because that distance, right? That distance that a rush comp has to cross to make it to double shield bunker comps is a little too far right now. But if we could get there faster, maybe that would make it counterplay. Now you could still beat it, right? You could still beat it with the double shield comp, where, you know, whether it was like with the IMAX theater, or you ran really heavy spam, right? Like, you know, we're talking like Junkrat spam, like something to like really slow them down before they get there and break the shield. Maybe at that point you wouldn't have Ashe and Widow sitting back who are barely shooting, waiting for the shield to break, because your tanks are going to break their shield before they get there, and then they'll pick everyone off. Instead, though, that you get there fast enough that the shield hasn't broken, and you enable some type of rush comp. So my two choices, or three choices, are either nerf snipers for the DPS players, because I know a lot of the flex DPS hate them. 2, you overbuff Rein and Winston and force main tank to be a much stronger role, because Winston's ult is garbage. Like, Ball gets more health off an E than Winston does with his primal. If you don't think that's dog shit, I don't know what to tell you.
And wait. And Winston bow doesn't charge your like Winston bow.
Yeah.
The bow E doesn't
shields
change your
don't charge.
fucking ult, yeah. And Winston is an old battery.
True. And you'll explode anyway, so you just gave him ult. Or 3, you buff the living shit out of Lucio and force him to be a better hero with how he generates his ult and how he enables the team. Whether it's he then somehow gets some kind of better passive charge by speeding, like depending on how many people he's speeding. If he's speeding like 5 people at once, maybe he gets a little bit of ult charge. Like if he speeds 1, he gets a little bit, but if it's 5, he gets a little bit more. You know what I mean? Not quite as much as the healing, but maybe a tiny bit. Maybe something to bring, because like most Lucio players that I know get to about 90 to 95% to ult when the tank ults go off. Like they're just shy, like they're almost have it. Just a little buff might be enough to bring him in and be better than Brig, because Brig will always have ult over the Lucio, and that makes him dog shit. So if you want to enable those heavy brawl heroes, I think that's the key. Or you buff the tanks and snipers, or nerf snipers.
One thing I suggested, and I think it was the support debate I'll quickly bring up, is that the wall ride also have a charge mechanic, because I think I spoke to, like, when I was speaking to Jake and Karki about the great role debate, we said that we want characters to have more dynamic scaling. So I was thinking, like, if the more Lucio wall rides, the more he charges his speed boost. So if he's like wall riding for a little bit and he lets it go and he amps, it's like a faster amp than if he was just standing around being an idiot. That was just like one idea that I had, but I'll head over to Bogur now for his feedback on change, stick, what do you want?
Okay, imagine this. We wait for Overwatch 2, you know? Nothing happens. 4 months pass, 5 months pass. They announce Overwatch 2 and in a month it releases. Okay, released 4 new heroes. 5. Fuck it. We're going wild, going ham. They haven't changed anything about the game. All of a sudden, they release huge patch notes. Out of the wild, like they nerf, like they completely change this. They make May a tank hero. They make this. They do that. They change 2CP. They bring Paris back. It's such a coin flip, no? It's a humongous coin flip. It might be the best thing Overwatch has ever seen, but it might be the worst, because
True.
they've had 0 play testing. And I'll tell you another thing. If that happens, they will never be able to fix the meta because now you have too many variables. You have too many things going on where it's already hard to fix it. But imagine if we just wait and we release everything all of a sudden. You can't change anything. You might try to change the meta, you might try to fix it, but you will never be able to fix it because you, as a developer, you have too much stuff to look over. Okay, we're gonna nerf this character now. Widow is gonna be OP. We're gonna nerf Widow, and now that character is gonna be broken. And this is too much. So I think we shouldn't be waiting. I think we should be actively working to fix this and make the game as enjoyable as possible. And I think, as I've mentioned before, I think the most fun we've had is when Winston and Rein are the strongest main tanks, and main tanks shouldn't be gone because, as I said, main tank is the core of Overwatch. It's the most important role and creates a lot of stability. The main tank in each team is the stable core that you build upon, And if you don't have a core, it's gonna be chaos, and nobody enjoys chaos because you can just play Call of Duty instead, like Flat said. And I personally believe you should buff Winston, you should buff Rein, you should buff Lucio, you should buff D.Va. Fuck it, go wild. Buff it and look how it goes, Because when Lucio was meta, when D.Va was meta, when all of these characters were meta, it was extremely fun, okay? Buff D.Va, buff Lucio, make them meta, make Rein meta, make Winston meta, make these fun characters meta, make Genji meta, Fuck it. Try it. Put some wild shit in experimental. Put something extremely wild. And remember when they buffed tanks? They did these insane changes for tanks for like a week or two and experimental, and they never did anything about it. It was fun. It was broken as shit, but it was fun, and they could have built upon it. Just do that. Let us test it out. Let us give you our opinions. We've played this game. I have over 5,000 hours in this game, even more. I can't count how much hours I have in this game because I've scrimmed so much as well. I've watched so much. I've done so much. I've done so many VOD reviews. Fuck it. Let us help you build a better game. Don't just do it by yourself. Don't close your ears and be like, la 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 la. I'm gonna do whatever the fuck I want to do. Let us help you. Do it. Let us test it out. It might be really healthy and might be really fun. It might not be, and we're gonna tell you. We're gonna give you our opinion. We're gonna be like, no, this isn't how you should do. You should maybe nerf D.Va. D.Va's too broken. You should nerf Winston a bit. He's too broken. We can make it a little bit more fun. And when the game becomes more fun, and they release the new characters, and everything is more balanced now, and we already have a steady increase forward, and the old players come back and new players come in, they're going to be more inclined to stay because the meta is already fun, and releasing these new few characters, I don't know if it's a good idea to release them all at once because it might create too much chaos again. It might be fucked because I don't have too much trust in Blizzard these days, but let's be hopeful. They release these characters, and not only are they gonna add a little bit of bread, fresh, breath. What? Hello? They're gonna
breath of fresh air.
Breath of fresh air. English hard, Englando. So they add that, and it's gonna be really refreshing for us to see it happen. Already a fun game if they fix the meta, if they work really hard to fix it before it happens. On top of that, what if they add more characters? It makes it really a lot more fun. Now we have more things to play around, more things to build upon. We have more content to make, more guides to make. There's more Twitter content, more everything, And but it's really important after they do that for them to be really responsive and nerf everything that happens, if these characters are too strong and are hardcore meta, we're gonna fall back to this same shit that we are on right now. They need to listen to us. They need to listen to the people who know the game. And I know that lower tier players also have a say in this because they are the majority. They shouldn't only listen to us, okay? They should factor in the lower star players, but they should really let us help them because I'm pretty sure they don't let us help. They don't.
So yeah,
Yeah.
no, I was gonna say, so just you're kind of saying like let us try more crazy shit, basically. Like give us the
try
chance.
more. I don't know a single person that would say no to Blizzard trying more crazy shit. Maybe not in live, but we have experimental and we have PTR. Fuck it, put it out there. Go ham, buff all of these characters that everyone loves. Release a poll on Twitter and everywhere. Which are your favorite characters? Buff these characters. Make them
Well, they
10 times
probably know
stronger.
what pick rate again, right?
Yeah, but fuck pick rates. Vote. Like, because pick rates are deceiving. We've already talked about it. It's really deceiving pick rates. Make these characters really strong. Let us play them and let us tell you our opinions. And it might be really good for the game because all these small patches, 25 HP over there, 25 HP there, 2 damage over here, 2 damage. It's boring. It's not fun, it's not interesting, we don't have that much time to waste on this shit. Just go test out something wild, different, creative. We said it before. Blizzard are extremely creative. Blizzard are extremely wild. Every time they release a game, they change everything. They release Hearthstone, card games become fucking amazing. They release Overwatch, is wild. StarCraft 2, everything is like defines
Genre defining.
Yeah, genre defining, literally. So why don't they put more creativity in this game? Just put this kind of energy into the game right now. Let us decide, let us dictate what seems fun. And if we work together, like, no developer can make a fun game by themselves. No developer can make a fun game by themselves. They need the community to help them. Without a community, a game is nothing, and without a developer, the game is also nothing. So we need to work together. It's really important.
Beautiful.
Thank
Beautiful
you.
message from Bogur there, giving
Thanks.
us a passionate, optimistic point of view. Now, Freedo, I'm going to head over to you because I know you're usually the pragmatist, and that's why it's good to have a sort of a variety of opinions. So come on and give me you're usually the voice of reason, sense. What are you thinking?
Yeah, to break everybody's bubble, even if the meta was perfect for the next 2 months and they did everything you ever dreamed of, when Overwatch 2 comes out, it will be chaotic and horrible, and it's good.
Yeah.
Do not expect a balanced game for months.
It won't be.
It's going to be really, really bad, no matter what they do. So it was said earlier that I want them not to do anything. It's not that I don't want them to do anything. It's just that I don't have strong opinions on what they have to do because I don't know what they got planned for Overwatch 2. That's more so my point. I agree that with many of the things that were said. A quick example is if Ryan's going to have the weaker shatter, I don't think anyone would complain if his shield was stronger because I don't think it's Winston and Reinhardt's shields that anyone has a problem with. We've gone at great length to explain that everybody at every rank basically finds them incredibly fair. So even if he was a bit stronger, I don't think it would break the game. But again, who knows what they got for Overwatch 2. The thing that I'm worried about though, and just something I just want everyone to remember is, as much as as a player that loves playing Lucio, would love to see Lucio just be a dominant pick. But what comes with that is the Reapers and Maze of the world, which maybe as a Rein player, Flats was a big fan of. But for the grass isn't always greener. These range hit scam players, when they had to play in goats or these rushdown metas, they weren't happy either. So ultimately, this is why some sort of ban system is the only way forward for competitive Overwatch, in my opinion, because everything's too mutually exclusive. It's either Rush is great and we're all playing Rush, or hit scans dominate the game. I mean, there was periods of time where hit scans were basically useless. That's why they got buffed to begin with, right? And then we switched the meta around and all of a sudden they're broken. So something's always going to be broken to me for the highest level of play. The best thing we can hope for is that it causes the least amount of damage to the competitive integrity of the game. So that when it's not too horrible, I'm all right, let's chill, because it's very rare for it to ever get better. It just gets different a lot of times. And it reminds me of something that has been said in regards to this. A lot of players just want things to change. And even if it's the thing you want, right? So it's even if we're all in agreement that Rein and Winston should be the staple of the game. Like that makes sense to me. Like, yeah, I agree, but I don't know if all players are, it holds their interest in the same way. So that's why I'm always for trying to split the community a little bit, so us hardcore players can have the game we want, and casuals can have PvE and the crappy ranked experience playing sim only or whatever they like to do, right? Like there's kind of got to be that divide for this game to succeed, in my opinion. Otherwise, Blizzard is always constantly trying to appease all players at the same time, looking at gold level statistics about Brig. Oh, look, she looks like she's weak. Let's buff her. It's all misguided to me. And yeah, I think I've said enough of that.
Yeah. No, I really agree. I think the nature of, well, everything in humans is that for everyone that's happy, there's always some other people who are unhappy. And obviously we've already addressed the idea of the vocal minority, but even back when dive was meta, people got sick of dive. People got annoyed. They were like, because if you think back, that's where Brig came from. Everyone was like, I'm sick of being dove in the backline. There's no supports that can peel for you. I need something that can help. And Blizzard were like, here's Brigitte, and here's a character that can help. Obviously, we have differing opinions about like what precisely was healthy and whether Brig was a gigantic mistake or what. But I think fundamentally the community will probably always get sick of something in a month or 2 months, which is why for me, go ahead, Bogur.
I'm sorry. Can you finish? And then I'm gonna chime in.
No, you go ahead. Because I was gonna give my what I would change. So I want you to go chime in.
I want to just say that appeasing to everyone is a shit way to make games. First of all, in my personal opinion, is absolutely shit way to do stuff. And I think Blizzard should choose who they want to appease their game to. Do they want pro players to have fun, or do they want the casuals to have fun and focus on that? They can't have both worlds, in the way that also about the metas. The reason why I want a healthy meta before the game releases is that yes, it's gonna be still chaotic, but it's better for it to be chaotic when the game is already at a good state than just adding more fire to the already humongous flames. Now the kitchen is burning down, so we put more gasoline in. It doesn't work that way. So the reason, so for example, every single role at any given moment is every single character and every given moment is going to be meta. I believe that it's always been like that. Every character, if it hasn't been meta, it's going to be meta eventually, and that's the way the games work. League of Legends, all of these Dota 2 characters, the metas change, but the difference is that in Overwatch, metas take too long to change. It's 1 year, 6 months, 8 months, 4 months, 5. It gets too stale, While in other games, it takes a little bit less time to change. The patches are more aggressive and more towards not just making the character trash, but just making the meta a little bit different, Like, for example, Goats was meta for a year. And it's not, as I said, it's not necessarily because the meta was terrible, but it's just for a year, it's boring, Like, Double Shield wasn't necessarily terrible at the beginning, but after a year, it gets extremely boring, Dive wasn't necessarily terrible. It was really fun, but it just gets boring after a year again. So if you had more just meta changing patches just to make things fresh, and at the same time kind of like add this tournament system and fix up the game in a way, just, I know I'm not giving any concrete solution, but just making the fun characters fun and the and meta and the non-fun characters like more cheese pigs, put them aside. You play Torb on Hanamura sometimes, do this, do that, and nobody's gonna complain. I've heard complaints from one tricks that stop playing their one tricks because their one tricks become meta. They can no longer play their one tricks. Torb one tricks cannot play their fucking character because everyone is playing Torbjorn all of a sudden. It's meta, People are not happy with this shit. Nobody's happy when off meta picks become meta. Because it's just not designed to be that way. So that's what I want to add. Like, appeasing to everyone is a shit strategy, and if you want to appease, you don't know the opinion about the majority of the casuals or the majority of professionals. In my sense and in my way of thinking, I think personally Blizzard should be focusing either really hard on the casuals or the professional player base, or really focus on the casuals, but at the same time give something to the pro players so they can have fun, like tournaments and ban system. Exactly. Imagine if they focus a lot of their effort on the casuals. They get the casuals to stay and have fun, and at the same time they add this other structure where you have this ban system and love tournaments and love fun stuff for the pro players to like enjoy. That way you don't have this. You no longer have this huge divide. You don't have this huge arguments about this, that, and whatever. It doesn't necessarily fix everything, but it's a step towards the right
Yeah.
direction. Go ahead.
I mean,
I'm sorry.
no, yeah, sorry. I was just gonna say because I agree with what you're saying, but I think what it really comes down to is variance. Basically, is what you're kind of getting at. And I can't speak to like Rainbow Six or League, but I can speak to what I know, which is StarCraft, which I always kind of see as the apex of esport design. Is that there's enough variance within a game of StarCraft, or from one game of StarCraft to the next, that the meta doesn't become stale as a consequence, right? Like one game you can cheese someone with a cannon rush and win, and that isn't as valid a win as spending 40 minutes grinding the guy down with an economy win. That concept isn't necessarily, it's kind of there, but it's very vaguely there in Overwatch. Like we discussed earlier, there's too much, like you can go an oddball comp on first point, but then you'll get shredded in the second and third point and you'll fundamentally lose the match. So there's no incentive to play a random oddball comp. Therefore, games become boring and stale, and the teams start playing the same metas. And similarly, the maps aren't different enough, or at least if there's like a dominant comp like GOATS, there's enough ways to make them work on every map that there's no point playing different comps. So that's, for me, again, this comes down to my point, which is which I want changed. I want systems that vary the game of Overwatch from game to game. That's what bans do for me. But again, as Freedo always says, like, really diverse maps also do the same thing. If like a map really is good for a certain comp that is, and really bad for a certain other one, there's no way you could force, for example, double shield on a map that was just really terrible for it. You would just have to change the meta by that way. So for me, I think it just comes down to that. You need your game to vary itself. It's in like we can have like a balance patch every month and we can change stuff arbitrarily, but the healthiest state of the game is if it just works for itself. It just keeps fixing itself constantly. So that's why I would like those systemic changes. Freedo, I feel like you wanted to say something, so before we kind of conclude, is there anything you want to chime in with?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think I'm good.
Okay, Flats?
I tend to agree with everything said.
My final thing is, a lot of this sounds probably very biased. I'm a main tank player. Bogur's a main tank player. Freedo's a main tank player at heart too. SVB, I throw him in that category as well. And before you sit there, and I know this is at the end, so probably you've already sat there the whole time. You sit there and you're like, hey, this is really biased. Like off tanks are really good and stuff. There's nothing wrong with tanks like Hog being good, in my opinion. I hate Hog personally. I want him deleted, but I know as a player, there's nothing wrong with him. I think that in a perfect world, all the tanks are viable in some form or fashion. But in reality, that's probably not going to ever happen. So how do you deal with that is the real question. I don't think there's anything wrong with having, a few heroes in every category be a little bit more on the outskirts. But like they'll always not be the meta pick, but they'll always be viable if they're in the right hands. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I know that in Double Shield, 6 was an extremely good Hog to play against. Like, I would beat him a lot of times because I was running Double Shield, and you could pull him, rock him, and stop a lot of the things he was doing. But he was still top 10 running on alt accounts playing Hog only. So it's like you sit there and you go, okay, a hero like Hog, which is very unfavorable in this meta, still can have players taking it to the top level, right? I don't know of any main tank players right now that are just basically one tricking or playing mostly that one trick and hitting 4600. I know even Shock's probably, in my opinion, the best Rein player who plays Rein all the time right now. Shock has struggling to play Rein.
Shock struggles a lot. Like I play a lot of Winston. A lot of people know me for my Winston play, but like for example, back in the double shield meta, like the old one, the first iteration of double shield meta, I did unranked to GM series where I played it without having my HUD on, and I
remember
got
that.
to GM, and I got to GM in 7 hours or some shit. You know,
Mhm.
like no matter how bad the meta is for your specific pick, if you're really good at that pick, you're still gonna find
Yep.
success. Like I still find success in high GM games playing Winston, but not always. You know, I cannot get 4.6 on Winston. Shock can get 4.6 on a Reinhardt. You know, it's not
Mhm.
possible. Like I can bet my, like, okay, I won't say anything too like wild here, but I 4.6 on playing Winston only, playing Rein only is almost impossible.
Yeah, that's my whole point right now. Is heroes like that? Like, there's people doing it. Like Yeetle's 4.7 every season, almost playing ball only. I think that tells you that ball is very strong, you know. And in this past 2 weeks, ball got a lot weaker with the double shield coming back, right? Because you had Brig stun, you had some people were playing May, you had Kree, you had a lot of stuff that would just kind of shut down ball and force the double shield, right? And so that tells me the hero is still in a good place or in a strong place. Maybe even could use a nerf or two, but at least is in a strong place. But if there's nobody, there's no one, like top tier players, right? That, you know, if you take even like someone who doesn't really play that much on, he doesn't try hard on stream anymore, like Super. If Super try hard on Rein every day right now, could he hit 4.6?
No.
If he played Rein only, I'd be inclined to say no, and he's arguably the best one, right? That I think tells me more than anything that a hero is in a really bad spot, and a hero that's always been a staple is in a really bad spot. Now, you know, you could make the same argument with any hero, like, oh, like, you know, Mercy isn't very good, or like Sim isn't very good. Yeah, but like everyone kind of understands that, you know, tank is kind of its own category, right? Like the tank category should be handled differently because it is different. And I think that skill should take over more than anything. Where if there isn't a single person who can play that hero to the highest level and beat someone who's like close to the highest level but playing more meta, then the meta is either too strong or the hero is too weak. And I think Orisa and Sigma do not need nerfs. I think they're both already. I think Sigma's okay. I think Orisa is weak. Orisa is weak, but is good in double shield because she just plays her role. That's why you can't, you know, you talked about earlier, can't carry on Orisa. Like, what, you gotta go on the flank and get a big bongo pull and kill one or two, you know? Like, oh man, dude, that really gets me going, you know? Like, I don't see that happening, you know. And I think that if there's anyone watching, and you know, any you know, people that can make decisions, I think that should be a metric that legitimately gets looked at. Is there a top tier player that can get to the highest ranks with that hero and almost that hero only? You know, I have like a 70% win rate on Rein this season in like 9 hours, right? I have an extremely high win rate because I'm only playing it in like masters levels games on like King's Row where I know I can just dominate, right? It's because the hero's dog shit, right? That's it. The hero's dog shit, but I'm also playing against worse players. That's why it worked. That's why the win rate's up there. But if you are seeing on the ladder, you're seeing the leaderboards, and there's nobody there that's playing that hero, that should tell you it's in a bad spot. That's why I thought the hog buff was ridiculous, because you had two accounts in the top 10 that were basically hog one tricks, right? Does that not tell you that hog is pretty decent? No,
I mean,
okay.
not only in NA, in EU, you have like Kese, who was in Overwatch League. He would also play Hog, and he was 4.7, you know, on like 2 or 3 accounts playing a Hog and Sigma, you know, you should like that. I think it should say a lot about the character.
I think it's a very easy metric to look at, and if you're not ever looking at it, consider it. Consider it. That's my takeaway.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, perhaps this is a new metric, the main tank metric that maybe Blizzard needs to start incorporating. Well, any sort of final thoughts before I get going? Because I know this has been a marathon of a tank debate. We've gone
4
for the
hours
longest yet. Yeah, this is quite the talk, and I'm super excited that so many people continue to tune in. So clearly, we weren't just boring everyone's asses off. So I really appreciate that. But yeah, any other thoughts for kind of, and Flats, if you're gonna stream now, are you gonna stream now?
I missed a couple messages. I gotta make sure.
Need some G Fuel. Pick it back up.
Oh, I'm definitely gonna stream again. I don't know if I'm streaming at this. Yeah, fuck it, I'll stream again.
Just start the screen
you
so
play
that we can
Orisa
raid
half
you.
asleep
Just start
anyway.
the screen.
True.
Just start the screen so that we can raid you. Like at least the starting student screen or whatever.
All right, cool.
But yeah,
Up real quick.
this has been like an absolute delight, guys. Thank you so much. I actually think that we went really deep and insightful. I was
Yeah.
thinking like maybe we don't have like that much to talk about in tank balance. 'cause we
Believe
just
me, if
whined
you
for a
have
while,
me
but
here talking about tanks, I can fucking talk all day long
yeah,
about
we went
everything I
deep.
hate and love. Yeah.
We talked philosophical stuff. We talked like game balance. We talked other games. It was quite the journey. Thank you I'm so grateful to you guys for joining me, guys. Remember always that if you use exclamation mark and then one of these guys' names that you can see on screen, you can pull up all their socials. Thank you to Bogur for filling in last minute as well. I really appreciate that. He came
for
fresh
having
fresh off a contenders game, so he was
Yeah.
ready and psyched. So thank you so much,
Feeling
guys.
good about
It's actually funny enough officially my birthday now. Now that it's at least in the UK now that it's turned
Hey,
past
happy
midnight.
birthday.
Happy birthday.
So you guys will see me in a couple. Streaming 4 p.m. UK time, 11 a.m. Eastern time for a subathon to celebrate. So do join me. But for now, head over to Flats because Flats is gonna presumably lock Ryan. Am I right, Flats?
That's a good one.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. Any concluding thoughts? Do you want to just sign off?
No.
All right. Peace. Then I'm gonna hit the raid
I'm gonna be
Flats
joining the rest
button.
of
Peace out.
Thank you so much, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the flat stream. Once more, thank you to these guys. Thank you to all you who stayed. And yeah, have a good one, guys.
I'll see you all in a minute.